Good morning. This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way Wyoming wakes up.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. From the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. News is brought to you by the Cody Night Rodeo, where real cowboy action comes alive. Get your tickets starting March 2nd at CodyStampedeRodeo.com. All 59 Wyoming representatives who were on the House floor on Thursday afternoon voted to convene a special committee to investigate the checks given to lawmakers on the House floor on Monday. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the committee will investigate if it was an act of bribery or legislative misconduct.
That exploded again Thursday when Representative Carly Provenza, who originally shot the photographs of this incident, brought a provision to convene a 7-representative investigative panel to determine whether this was bribery or misconduct. There was extensive debate, like 3 hours.
Rebecca Bextel is not a state legislator or a registered lobbyist. She's a political activist, and after starting her outlet, the Open Range Record, she was registered to attend this year's session as a member of the media. Senate President Bo Biteman told colleagues on Thursday that Wyoming needs to stop waiting and start leading as demand for electricity is expected to spike. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that Biteman spelled out a vision that would put Wyoming in front of Trump's push for American energy supremacy.
So one bill that was voted into introduction on Thursday directs the Wyoming Energy Authority to study the transmission opportunities. What is the best way for Wyoming to approach the energy market? Senate President Bo Biteman stood on the floor today and told his fellow senators that he wants Wyoming to be the tip of the spear.
Introducing Senate File 123, the Wyoming Energy Dominance Fund, Biteman spelled out a vision for the state to position itself at the front of the Trump administration's push for American energy supremacy, backed by roughly $105 million in redirected severance tax revenues. I'll be back with more news from the Cowboy State Daily News Center right after this. WYDOT wants to remind you, download the Wyoming 511 app for hands-free information on your mobile device. This message is from the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
My name's Brady Thornock. I manage my family's ranch here in Uena County. Ranching teaches you to think long-term, and it teaches you that Wyoming stays strong when there's real work here. That's why I'm building a data center on this ranch with a Wyoming company called Prometheus Hyperscale. This project will create thousands of Wyoming jobs, and it will use Wyoming's natural gas resources. We need to build Wyoming. I'm doing this for the future of Wyoming.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com. What if healthcare worked the way it should? Hoskinson Premier Care. Comprehensive quality care with one predictable fee. Unlimited office visits, annual wellness exams, preventative screenings, and advanced imaging. Primary and specialty care, in-house labs, mental health and wellness support, including physical therapy and nutrition. Just for $250 a month. No copays, no deductibles. World-class care right here in Gillette. We are the future of healthcare now, and your doctor works here. Visit HoskinsonHealth.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. Wyoming officials are universally cheering the Trump administration's Thursday repeal of an Obama-era rule that was the linchpin for EPA climate regulations. Cowboy State Daily's Greg Johnson reports that environmental groups say the move ignores science and invites legal challenges.
What they say is that it really was a giant overreach on government's part to then just be able to use this rule to say it affects the Clean Air Act. Everybody I talked to within Wyoming said that this is way past due. There are detractors. Environmental groups say that they're going to keep fighting it. I think they were just ready to sue whenever this came down. So that's going to face lawsuits.
By eliminating the rule, President Donald Trump and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin say they are doing away with the single largest deregulatory action in U.S. history, according to an EPA statement announcing the move. A Wyoming House committee advanced a bill Thursday that would provide funding for a study on how data centers, carbon capture, and other large-scale industrial projects might sap or impact the state's water supply. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports this is just the beginning.
It would be $500,000 to investigate the things that take water out of our water cycle, that sap Wyoming water. Data centers were implicated in that. An environmental group that actually said, we don't want you to pass this bill right now, said that's because it wasn't big enough. It didn't give enough money. It didn't have enough scope of investigation, and they want to go bigger.
Representative Carly Provenza out of Laramie says data centers pose a consequential problem in Wyoming. And that's a look at today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that I would never be able to get over it and that my kids wouldn't have a father. I overdosed on heroin and I lived. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. For the longest time, fear held me back from ultimately being who I wanted to. I found the fatherhood program, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. My desire to change had finally outweighed my desire to stay the same. I felt powerless for so much of my life that it's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. For the first time, I finally feel like I'm exactly where I should be, where I want to be.
Cowboy State Daily Show on a finally Friday. Jake with you. Thanks for being there right off the bat from the beginning. Now you got to stay till the end. The pressure's on, right? It's World Radio Day, not just National, World Radio Day. We're going to celebrate it by doing radio stuff. Representative Landon Brown is going to be on the show. Representative Steve Harshman, former legislator and current Cowboy State Daily columnist Scott Clem will be on. All of them to talk about the checks and imbalances scandal on the House floor. Yeah. We'll also hear today from Governor Mark Gordon. He'll be on the show. It's always great when we get the governor. Cyrus Western, EPA guy for Region 8, to talk about what is this new wide-sweeping EPA change. We've never seen anything to this scale, ever. Cyrus Western will explain to us. Wes Spiner is here, working on his PhD at Oregon State. Wes is hanging out with cougars, mountain lions, and he's studying them, and his new study is out now. He's the lead author on a study that really drills down on the relationship between cougars and wolves, cats and wolves. Can they get along? Nope, not real good. What does it mean? His research is fascinating. He'll be on the show today. Cheyenne Mayor Patrick Collins will be here. He could be the mayor that finally fills the hole. Yeah, we'll have to tune in to figure out what that's about. It's the Hine building, legendary building that traces its roots back to a legendary hotel. It really is the heart and soul of Cheyenne, and it's sat empty for too long. Could that all change? Patrick Collins, Mayor Collins, will be on the show. Nick Bryant is the Epstein file specialist. He's the journalist that got a hold of the Epstein Black Book way back when, before this was ever a thing, a scandal. Nick Bryant's been there from the get-go. And he's going to be on the show. He's a guest that everyone wants. There was just a big fancy guest on Epstein on the Joe Rogan show, and he was like laying bare all this Epstein stuff. And he said, you know who you really want is Nick Bryant. That's the guy you ought to get on your show, Joe. We got him. He'll be on today. And there's another twist to the Epstein files. Worse than the money, all the financing, worse abuse that was going on. There's new insight into who Jeffrey Epstein was and who he wanted to be. I'm talking like spreading his DNA. He was a sick dude. Nick Bryant is going to be on today. Representative Harriet Hageman will close out the show to talk about several interesting topics, including the PRCA move to Wyoming. She's happy about that. So, oh man, we're going to close the week with a flurry on this Friday show. It should be real fun. World Radio Day. Let's start with a weather forecast, and then we're just going to get right into the meat of it. Weather looks like this. Next week, we got weather coming. Wyoming's going to see another shot of snow, another pulse of Pacific moisture next week. But right now, the weekend looks pretty good. Mostly sunny, breezy in Casper with highs 52. Sunny in Lander, 50. Evanston, partly sunny, highs 42. Rock Springs, gradually becoming sunny today, 43. Pinedale, mostly sunny, upper 30s. Afton, mid-30s, partly sunny skies. DuBois, sunny, breezy, 40. Jackson, you'll top out about 37 today, partly sunny skies. Thermopolis, sunny with a high near 50 in Thermop. Cody, sunny and 50. Lovell, sunny and 50. Buffalo, sunny and 50. Sheridan, Sheridan, you messed up. Sheridan, sunny and 53. Gillette, sunshine, 54 the high today. 53 in Newcastle under sunny skies. Torrington, yeah, you're leading the way. 59 and partly sunny in Torrington. 57 in Wheatland. I'm reading these numbers as if this is normal. February, 50s. Yeah, it's just normal to be pushing 60 in mid-February, right? How fast I've accepted how crazy the new winter is. Cheyenne, slight chance of rain or snow after 2. You'll still get up to about 53 today. Clouds on the increase in the afternoon, though, in the state capital. Chance of snow or rain in Laramie as well, highs 46. Rawlins, partly sunny, mid-40s. So 40s and 50s across the state in February. I don't get it. I don't get it, Don. Don Day doesn't get it either. Earlier this week, he said he was washing his hands of this whole meteorological stuff. He's like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. No winter. Although we're finally getting a breakdown of what was holding up winter and sending winter eastward. That is finally breaking down. We saw snow early this week, and we will see more snow tomorrow. I want to start with this, not just because, I don't know why, because it's up on in my face on the interwebs. And before I close this page, I will get to local news. But I did want to talk about this only for the fascination of the AI angle. I'm not really wholly invested in the Guthrie kidnapping. Are you? I mean, I can't get too excited about it. Similar to the Epstein files, I just couldn't really get there. I'm like, it's probably a bad thing. It's probably a deep, awful thing. It's probably something I should know about. Do I want the Epstein files released? Yeah, I guess so. Transparency. But I couldn't, go full bore on it. And I can't really get all the way on the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping, other than to be fascinated that, it's really surprising you could pull off a kidnapping for ransom caper in this day and age when there's so many different ways to catch criminals. That's bold. It's really bold. And we talked yesterday about how it really bucks the trend. The investigators, authorities say this kidnapping since old people aren't usually kidnapped. Can you guess why? Nobody wants them back. Unfortunately, we're not a culture that treasures the elderly, at least not like, First Nation, not like Indians, where, the chief is the oldest guy because he's the wisest. Wisdom cherished, experience cherished. In our culture, old people, we got a home for you. Mom, Dad, you shouldn't be driving anymore. So elderly are not usually the ones kidnapped. It's usually kids. Parents will do anything to get their kids back, right? Will parents do anything to get grandma back? How much are we talking? That's the first question that you would ask the robot voice that calls and says they have Nancy Guthrie. Where's my robot voice thing? When you disguise your voice.
We have your mother. We demand $2 million.
$2 million? That sounds kind of high.
Okay, $1 million.
Still, that's a lot of money. It's been so quiet around here without Nancy around.
Okay, 500,000, and that's as low as we'll go. You have no idea how much overhead, how much costs are associated with kidnapping someone. Just our rope budget is through the roof.
Fine. Where should we meet? Yeah, no, typically elderly are not kidnapped. Nancy Guthrie. So the latest in this is why I'm still talking about it. After I profess not to be that enraptured by the whole story, I thought, here comes the FBI says, we got a real good photo of the dude from the Ring doorbell camera thing. I don't know if it was Ring. They don't mention what company, but it's one of those doorbell cameras. We just saw the advertisement for Ring doorbell, how it can find your lost dog on the Super Bowl, and it creeped everybody out. The message was totally missed, I think. And I'm not the only one who noticed. I said that right in the beginning. I said that the doorbell commercial on the Super Bowl was kind of cringe. The Ring Super Bowl ad about finding your lost dog is creeping people out. That's the headline of a story that I should have wrote, because that's exactly what I said. I'm creeped out by the technology that finds your lost dog. The fact that AI-fueled surveillance network is going on and you're asked to sign up for it. No, thank you. I don't want to. I just want to see if my UPS guy is kicking my packages after he drops them there. I didn't sign up to be part of this neighborhood watch program. Anyway, the Ring doorbell gets a pretty good photo of the dude suspected to be the kidnapper. Suspected because he's wearing a full-on ski mask in Arizona, and it's not that cold. All right. You're wearing a full-on ski mask. You're immediately a suspect, and we'll find the crime later. Walking around with a ski mask in Arizona is probable cause to be stopped by law enforcement. You just don't wear ski masks every day. Certainly not in Arizona, even in winter. That makes you prime suspect. So, with a pretty good photo of this dude, even though he's got a ski mask on, you can see his eyes, his lips, you can see certain features. Why can't you, and this is the first thing I thought of, since Grok is able to undress young ladies, you can ask Grok, another AI thing, you can ask Grok, what does that 16-year-old look like without her bikini on? And Grok will do it for you. That's disgusting. Why can't we do the same thing with AI, Chat GPT, Grok? Show us the suspect, the kidnapping suspect, without his mask. This guy, Professor Nez, did just that. A recent YouTube video is out now. Professor Nez, whoever that is, not important. He said he wasn't the only one to think of it. Hey, Grok, take the ski mask off. Show me the suspect. What's he look like? And guess what? Oh, careful what you ask for. The mask came off and Dominic Aaron Lee Evans appeared. Dominic Aaron Lee Evans. Grok said, or AI said, whatever AI company Professor Nez used, said, here's your suspect. Here's what this guy looks like without a mask. Dominic Aaron Lee Evans, longtime friend, Annie Guthrie's husband, Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law. And what did cops say the other day? They said the reason this kidnapping case doesn't fit the mold or breaks all the rules is usually a kidnapper is close ties to the family, if not a family member. Bingo. I don't know if the FBI is looking into this. I don't know if this is a nonsense story. It comes from a news source that I have known to be semi-nonsense in the past, but I find it very interesting. We have unmasked the kidnapper, and it's who we maybe could have thought it was. Oh, it's weird.
Hey, Wyoming, ready for news that actually feels like Wyoming? Tune into Cowboy State Daily Radio with heart, humor, and a little Western kick. From ranch roads to mountain peaks, if it's happening here, you'll hear it here. No fluff, no filter, just the real deal. Real voices, real stories, real Wyoming. If it's happening here, you'll hear it here. Cowboy State Daily Radio, Wyoming's news, just the real deal. 100% homegrown.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Hi. I'm your retirement fear, but don't be scared. You're still in pre-retirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. Here, this is pretirement.org.
Retirement savings options? Potential tax breaks?
Ooh.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
You got this.
Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan.
So as a technical sergeant, E6.
I served in Vietnam in 1969.
I am a U.S. Army veteran.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Of course.
Yes.
Try to always be there for each other.
I do my best reaching out to my brothers and sisters in arms.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
It's always tough, right?
I can't say that I have. I mean,
if you don't have someone to kind of help you guide those thoughts, it can be really bad.
Eventually, you just can't deal with it on your own.
I guess it's a part of the military too, right? Service before self.
It was drilled in, service before self.
And you start to question, maybe people would be better off without me, When you realize that you're not alone, once you take that first step, there's so much support.
It's a Friday the 13th. Don't be scared. It's also World Radio Day. It's been celebrated since, I don't know, way back. 2011? Well, I guess it's not that old. UNESCO, I don't know what UNESCO is. It's got to be like a radio thing. But it's on the internet, so it must be true. UNESCO declared back in 2011 during its 36th annual conference that World Radio Day would be an international day to celebrate radio every February 13th. So we'll do that. We're on the radio across the state of Wyoming, also on YouTube channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel while you're there. Maybe you're watching us on the Facebooks, X Live, Facebook Live, maybe on the website, on the home site, cowboystatedaily.com. That's cool. Or on select radio stations across the state. Only the best. You can run it back anytime if you miss something. Wherever you listen to and download your favorite podcast, we're there too. Oh, that Sweetwater County School District. Not a week goes by where they're not in the news in a bad way. This school district just cannot get out of its own way. I hate to do anything disparaging to schools and education because there shouldn't be stories like this. But man, Sweetwater County School District. The cat's displaying some urgency about something. Sweetwater County. This is the county. This is a school district that I should just have a list of the latest chapter in a district that is now under scrutiny. I don't know what the official term is, but the Wyoming Department of Education, Megan Degenfelder, the superintendent, made the announcement like last week, right? That Sweetwater County School District was on a short leash, let's say. I should look up the real term. In my words, this cat's going to have to go out. The way I would put it is she launched some kind of investigation or a close look into what's going on in Sweetwater County. And that stem from, pick one. Is it the fundraiser wristband that said FAFO? And what it stands for is some naughty words in there. Some people kind of didn't like that. Is it the lawsuit? And I think there's more than one against the district for referring to one of the students by their preferred gender and without telling the parents. It's kind of an end around from the parents. Was it what else? There was a couple more. And now the latest Sweetwater County, we go to not the Rock Springs High School, thankfully. They get a break from the news cycle. We go to the Sage Elementary, where a teacher sat a class down for reading a book. How quaint. The book called My Shadow is Purple. The teacher obviously just pulled it off the shelf unawares, which is, I wonder. This is a kindergarten class, I believe. 5 and 6 year olds. Might have been kindergarten or first. After reading, kindergartners. The material of the book is perhaps inappropriate for school kids of any age. It's one of the non-binary gender ideology books. In other words, telling kids it's okay to not feel like you're a boy or a girl, to feel like you're somewhere in between or not either. It's one of those adding more to the multiple choice answers. Am I a male, female? That's as far as the multiple choice. You use 40s, 50s, 60s. Please designate whether you're male or female. Are you boy or girl? Today, we have to add. There's also choice C. Well, I feel like both. Well, I feel like neither. Choice D. Well, it depends on what day. Choice E. We now have 5 multiple choice potential answers. Or 6. You could just simply check the box that says, well, I'm offended you even ask. So for those who aren't sure if they're a boy or girl, this non-binary gender ideology book comes out, and it says it's okay to feel that way. Well, we're in an era where we're erasing all that DEI nonsense from the classroom, and my shadow is purple should have been burned in a pile long ago, Fahrenheit 451. What's it even still doing on the bookshelf in Sage Elementary? I'm not sure. And how a teacher starts reading a book that they don't know what's in it. I mean, there's classics you can read. There's endless, dozens of books you can read, kindergarten and first graders, that are time tested. Just grab one of the trusty old good ones and read it. Don't grab blindly at a book and not know. And the teacher supposedly was reading from the book and must have got to a part where it was obvious what the book was about. And, oh, gee, she closed the book up. That was the end of the reading session. But too late, a 5-year-old had already heard the message. The message went home to the parents, and now the parents are mad. One of the parents is Erin Massey, who said her 5-year-old son came home and he said, there was a book today. I was asked to what color I identify. What's my favorite color? Purple or yellow? And then, it got into the whole thing of a boy who thinks he's a girl, and the 5-year-old was upset by it, said mom. And now she's not happy. She said, these kids can't even spell. The school's job is supposed to be focus on academics. Teach them the basics. Teach them how to read before you indoctrinate them with non-binary gender ideology. Yeah, the school superintendent is backpedaling on this, saying that the teacher, the principal, the principal of the school, Sage Elementary, said the teacher stopped reading the book when she realized what it was about. 2 follow-up questions: what's the book still doing there on the shelf? And 2, having some insight into teachers, just grabbing a book sight unseen, having no idea. Yeah, there might be a better choice. Pick one, pick. Yeah. Also in the news, Greg Johnson has a story of an 18-year-old Riverton woman who admitted finally to stabbing a man about 10 years older than her. There was alcohol involved, as there often is, I guess, allegedly, with this young lady. Tiara Sebering, not the first time that she's been on the radar of law enforcement, going back July of last summer. Tiara was picked up in Riverton City Park after an altercation. She had been drinking. And this 18-year-old last summer blew a 302, I believe. 308. Tiara Sebering, Riverton. And I only bring this up because as an 18-year-old, to be able to still function, to be on your feet with a .308 would indicate a lifetime of drinking. I mean, there are some 40, 50-year-olds that can register a blood alcohol content measured at 0.3 something and still somewhat function. But for an 18-year-old, you blow a 0.30, that is an incredible tolerance to alcohol. And it's not in a good way, Tiara. Girl, 18 years old. So that happened last summer. It's probably not a surprise that the latest time Tiara Sebering's in the news is she admitted to stabbing a man at a local motel. He was found with blood all over him, life flighted somewhere. Still don't know how he's doing. And she hid a gray folding knife under the mattress in her motel room. That lasted for about 5 seconds before Riverton PD found it. And then she said, yes, I stabbed him. I don't know what the wake-up call needs to be, but that should have happened back last July 30th. Or whatever, what date did last July 30th, 5:30 in the afternoon. Tiara Sebering, 18-year-old, is arrested for underage drinking with a BAC of 0.308. At that time, a judge has to be aware that that's not normal. Like, that's not, I'm going to, experiment. I'm going to have a few beers. I'm only 18. That's like you have to have been drinking for some time, and it's just got to be cut short. And maybe that something like this wouldn't happen. I don't know, but it's disappointing. Tiara, get help. You're going to jail here. Looks like allegedly, and all that stuff, because everybody's innocent till proven guilty. Just not everybody is sober. That's the problem. We got a guest coming up. The cat's got to go outside. You probably hear him meowing. Representative Landon Brown, former Speaker of the House, he's going to pop in. I'm hoping in just a minute. Let me play this batch of ads known as Stall for Time to boot Feline out the studio. Come here, cat.
Every morning, America wakes up to reheated outrage and copy-paste commentary.
Yeah, I don't follow talking points. I follow common sense. If that hits a nerve, good. It means you're still alive.
No spin, no fluff, no kumbaya, just Jake. Serving up truth, sarcasm, and grit. Stirred by hand and seasoned with reality.
I don't yell, I don't pander. I just call it like I see it, and trust me, there's plenty to call.
From the Capitol to the county fair, if it's worth talking about in Wyoming, Jake's already on it. No permission needed, no script required.
The West was built by people who spoke their minds and stood their ground. I'm just making sure we don't forget how.
The Jake Show, weekdays on CowboyStateDaily.com and wherever bold voices still have a mic.
No apologies, no filter, no bull.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Emma, did you hear?
Todd's in the hospital.
Who's Todd? He got a collapsed lung from vaping. He thought it was cool.
Not cool.
Promise you won't vape, Emma. It can lead to a lifelong addiction, and we can't be friends if your lungs collapse.
Bogus.
Wacky sitcom teens aren't the best people to talk to your kid about vaping.
Hey, you got a minute?
You are. Start the conversation with your child about vaping today.
These walls and windows hold me tight. The warm embrace we all call home. My neighbors watch over one another. This little street is a land of liberty of its own, where I always have a place to go. I'm free to call this place my own. We all deserve a place to call home.
That's an American dream.
When the uniform comes off, the battle doesn't always end. Too many are silent wars, with trauma, with loss, with hopelessness. Downrange Warriors stands in that gap, offering peer support, purpose, and a brotherhood that saves lives. You can help. Visit downrangewarriors.org, because no warrior should ever walk alone. Hope is waiting. Be the reason they find it.
All right, we're back from break, and we'll be joined by Representative Landon Brown, House Rep HD 9. That goes back to 2017. Representative Brown, graduate of Cheyenne East. Is that right?
Yes, sir. How are you doing this morning, Jake?
I'm good. I bring up East only because the girls' basketball team is insanely good. But I want you to give them a heads up that Green River's coming for them this year. I mean, I watched the game last night. Green River Evanston was the greatest girls basketball game I think I've ever seen. It was a war on the floor. And Green River came out on top. That team is so loaded. Look out, East.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you what, East has they've been traditionally pretty good, so I'm excited for them, and they land in my district too, which is even better. So,
so you have to be, you're obligated to be to support your constituents. Certainly an East fan. Those girls are good too. That would
absolutely.
I would pay scalper money to watch East and Green River if that's how it ends up for state. So I want to talk about a few things, including House Bill 110. I want to go all over the place. But first, I mean, the buzz right now in the state capitol is this, what I'll call checks and imbalances scandal. The floor show no one asked for. I love your statement. I heard a quote from you. You must be reading Lee Atwater. You said perception is reality. And this isn't about whether the checks were legit or any, well, that's the first thing we got to find out. But yes, the optics, not good. What have you ever seen anything like this? And what are your initial thoughts?
No, Jake, I'm the fifth longest serving member of the state house now. And I've been here for 10 years and I've never seen anything like it. But I also think that it's really important to take a step back. And that's something that I said on the microphone yesterday. Just take a step back and breathe a little bit. There's a lot of accusations flying and there's a lot of things that this could have been. But as you just said, the optics of it are bad and perception is reality to people. And frankly, on my end of things, I've been the sparring end of some perception that people think about me. And, I still see it on a day-to-day basis from something that happened 3+ years ago. So I don't think this looks good. It doesn't look good on the institution. It doesn't look good on the individuals named in this situation. But I think above all else, I think as long as the speaker does what he said he was going to do, which is provide us with a 7-member committee that is, going to be truthful and get down to the facts of this. We've got a 4-day committee that's going to do some fact finding and figure out what actually happened here.
We're talking to longstanding Representative Landon Brown, representing HD 9. And what happened on the House floor on day one, the whole checks thing. You brought it up, and I think it's important to just flesh out that background, and then we'll put it away and forget about it. But you have been there, and you know what it's like to be. I don't know whether you call it a victim or what, but you fell out of lockstep with President Trump on a few things. For me, a blind, unwavering allegiance to any one person other than your spouse is probably questionable. It makes me think of the party will not tolerate dissension, and the party is always listening. That became an issue for you, like death threats kind of issue.
Yeah, I still hold on to the voicemails, and I've seen some other people that have seen voicemails in the past as well, that they've received nasty death threats and things like that. And I'll be honest with you, the people that sit behind me in these chairs, they don't do it for that. And they're not here to try to pound their chest and become a bigger person in the state by, using their position in these chairs, actually create a better Wyoming for their constituents. And I think the vast majority of the people that are in here are doing that for the right reason. But every once in a while, you'll get those people that just no matter what you say and or do, they're going to see you as a traitor, or they're going to see you as somebody that went against what, like you just said, the party is always watching. And I claim myself to be very much a Ronald Reagan esque Republican. I don't fall in line with today's MAGA theory. That's not who I am. I do think that America should come first. I have always thought that, but some of this nationalism and some of these things that have come up lately have put me at odds with the party. And so I'll always consider myself a Republican. I am nowhere near a Democrat. But some of those people out there on Facebook and Instagram and all those other places think differently.
Representative Landon Brown with good advice. When the temperature gets turned up like it too often does in politics, take a breath. Take a breath. What we saw the other day, the whole checks thing, you mentioned the 7-person committee. Do you have any idea who is going to populate that or where it's going? Is there any word? You were up late last night, I'm sure, talking about stuff. What do we know? Anything new?
I think that's something really important to flush out here is that this House, regardless of what happened yesterday morning and the appointment and the discussion around that 7-member committee, still did its work yesterday. We were here till 11 o'clock last night discussing the budget. We went all the way through a little more than 2/3 of the budget. So we did our work. We went through and did some really good work and made sure we asked some really tough questions on the things that were out there. So I think it's important for people at home that end up watching this video or anything else that's out there. Yeah, we screwed around for 2 hours. I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the day, those 2 hours, I think, were well spent. I think they established that committee and they got the stress off of the people's chest to say what they needed to say about the situation. Beyond that, I really don't. We've given that power to the speaker to appoint that 7-member committee. I read an article, I believe it was from you guys, or maybe it was from another news agency that said the Senate's going to do something similar. And produce some rules for potential changes on rules on like accepting donations on the floor. So regardless of what it looks like, it shouldn't have happened. And I think that it's going to be a very good committee as long as the speaker commits and does exactly what he said he's committing to do, which is to make sure it was a fair committee.
Something like what we saw, the whole checks thing. Yes, it does threaten to erode public trust, and that is so hard to build and so hard to get back. That's the thing. We heard the word stain used quite often by several House members, how this stained the whole procedure. It's not a good feel. And yeah, you got to address that head on. So I appreciate what everybody did. Spent 2 hours when you just don't have the time during this budget session to be messing with anything that isn't related to the budget. So yeah, you understood the magnitude and the importance. I think that's good. And as you point out, these lawmakers like Landon Brown, they have America first, Wyoming first in mind. And I don't know too many of them that are doing it for the $150 a day plus per diem. They're doing it for us. Hey, Representative Brown, let's talk about House Bill 110, this K through 12 public school finance recalibration efforts underway. I heard a lot of people didn't like this bill. It's not ready, blah, blah. I mean, what do we do? Did you think the bill had a chance, just needed some tweaking? Do you want to see something come back in the Senate? Where are we with this?
Yeah, Jake, I think this is probably, if not the largest bill beyond the budget bill for us to really focus on. I mean, we have a case in front of the Supreme Court right now. We have a decision from the district court judge that's found us out of compliance with basically every order that the Wyoming Education Association sued us on. It's not a good look for the state of Wyoming. It's not a good look for the legislature. With 50 plus years of school litigation against us. This does not look good. And that House Bill 110 was the one vehicle at this point. Now, we do have another Senate file sitting over there, a mirror bill that could be introduced. And we did hear late last night, it was the very last thing that was done, is there was a motion to reconsider that bill for introduction again. At the end of the day, I think what people need to recognize is this particular bill was filled with, in my mind, egregious errors. But I do think that it's something that we can work on and we should have worked on. That's the process. And that's what we have been told since the day I started in the legislature, bring amendments, try to make a good bill better. That's what we do. And I'll be honest with you, I think one of the things that scares a lot of people in this chamber, more than anything else, is the inability to work with a lot of the members of the Freedom Caucus on hardline stances and whether or not we bring up an amendment to try to fix something. They've got 32, 33 votes that they're going to vote out and say that we're not going to do that. So we don't want to push a bill over to the Senate that is, it's just not ready for prime time, and they're going to end up not doing anything with it as well. It's a big, scary poll right now.
Yeah, let me ask you, Landon, on that subject, Representative Brown, when you get a bill that, something has to be done, but you're just not stoked by what you see in this bill. You're like, it's got problems. As you said, it's got too many downsides. At what point do you say, you know what, we've redlined this too much, too many amendments, it doesn't even look like the same? At what point do you give up and said, I'm just going to have to vote no if this is all we got? I want to see a new piece of legislation, or else this thing is so redlined that it's not even, workable. You have to make a decision point at some time, right?
Well, Jake, you bring up a good point. And there was a bill that came out earlier this year on day 1 or day 2. It was House Bill 9, and it was the grooming bill and grooming of minors. And it was a very similar bill. When you actually read the construction of the bill itself, there was some really glaring errors. And so I voted against introduction of it because I was afraid that the Freedom Caucus was just not going to work with me on trying to fix it. I did go to committee. We were able to work on some of those amendments and get them through. But as you state, when you start talking about something as big as, $300-400 million and how that gets taken care of, frankly, I don't think that there's enough experience in this House floor to understand the implications of what changing, 1 to 2 people in a classroom can actually do to a small district across the state. So to your point, I think that we probably starting off with kind of I'll call it a turd sandwich of a bill. And it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of red ink to make it something that I could vote for in the end. But I do think it's important that we show the state of Wyoming and the court system that we're going to try to do something for it.
There's so many dynamics in the House. You mentioned you're one of the longstanding. You've done a few terms. You got a decade in there. But the House has so many rookies. This is their first time. They still don't know where you're supposed to park. And a lot comes at them in a hurry. And then you got a Freedom Caucus core, which really, at the end of the day, if they put a stamp down, nothing's going anywhere that they don't want it to go. It's just, man, there's a lot happening in the House. It's, I don't know, exciting times. It keeps you up late, and I appreciate you being on this early after being up late at night. I don't know what time it is in Cheyenne. Here in Jackson, it's early. Oh,
it's 6:55, but yeah, we're same time zone. Yeah, we're good.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, anything else? One last thing while we have you. I mean, this is a budget session. We're talking budget. I know Governor Gordon is a little angered that Freedom Caucus and Club No is seeming to echo DC's dodging bloat where there may not be bloat. Is this is there cutting just to cut? What is your in general? What is your appetite on the budget? Where do you stand? Cuts to UW, cuts to here and there, Wyoming Business Council. Where are you going to fall on all this?
I think there's going to be a lot of discussion as we move forward on the Business Council, University of Wyoming. I think those are the two big ones. I was really happy to hear Representative Pendergraft, Vice Chair Pendergraft on appropriations last night as they were going through the Department of Health budget. They set up a subcommittee to go through that budget line by line by line by line. And they took many, many hours of testimony. And what he found out was there's really not a lot of bloat. These agencies are running very, very good. And And frankly, when I came in 2017, we cut $600 million from the budget right away. And then 2018, it was another $300 million. We've been cutting all but 3 years that I've been in the legislature. So it's not been something where these agencies are growing out of proportion for what we're seeing with the growth of the dollar and everything else happening around them. But what I think is one of the other big issues and the big sticking point is the $100 million on employee raises. We sat there and we heard it at least 5 times last night that I counted, that we're losing state agency employees to different things, especially firefighters and nurses. But for some reason, those people have not been included in the pay raises to pick and choose just a few, state employees that they think are benefiting of or willing to take the stand and say, hey, these people deserve a pay raise. But we've got a lot of engineers that work for the Department of Environmental Quality or for the Department of Transportation. We've got brand inspectors. We've got correction, parole, and probation officers. We've got a lot of people out there that depend on a paycheck, and they haven't seen a pay raise. If you listen to the statements that are out there right now, they say it's a 20% increase in the past 2 years. Well, what they don't take into account is there was a 0% pay increase for 10 years before that. So it's just not a good look on the state of Wyoming. We should show that we value our state employees and the people that are taking care of us on a day-to-day basis.
Representative Landon Brown joins us for one of the first lawmakers up after a long night last night, representing you folks in HD 9 since 2017. Go T-Birds! And thanks for coming on, Representative.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Cowboy State Daily Show continues here on Finally Friday. Representative Brown, just one of the first of House members we're going to have on today. Later, Steve Harshman will be with us. Former legislator Scott Clem, who turned around an article pretty quickly in the Cowboy State Daily, is one of our columnists, on what he thought about this check scandal. And a 7-person committee has been assigned to look into it. Also, later today, the governor will be on. He'll talk a little bit about that and a lot of bit about other stuff. U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman's on the show today. Nick Bryant to talk about Epstein files. Wes Binder to talk about his cougar studies. Do mountain lions get along with wolves in Yellowstone? Wes says, no, not really. They steal each other's food and they don't like each other. And those dynamics playing out in Yellowstone and in Wyoming are super interesting. He did just released his study. He's the lead author on an Oregon State study on big cats. And he interviewed several and asked how they felt about wolves. And unanimously it was, we don't like them. Wolves are bad. Yeah, all that stuff. And Mayor Patrick Collins, Cheyenne Mayor, is going to be on talking about filling the hole. For real, literally filling the hole that is an eyesore in downtown Cheyenne, that is the Heinz building, that is formerly a building was so rich in history. The former Inter-Ocean Hotel, built by a former slave, a dude that's so famous. When that hotel opened, rich with history. It was the place everybody went. It was kind of like, what the Wart is to Jackson. The Inter-Ocean Hotel was to Cheyenne in the day. First building to get electricity, right? It has so much history. And for too long, it has just been a shell of a building with nothing going on. And it's terrible. But maybe that's all about the change. We'll tell you why it's all about the change and what's going on with the hole that in the middle of Cheyenne. Cyrus Western will be here. He's the Region 8 EPA guy, director, and huge announcement regarding the EPA. Have not seen a sweeping change like this in any federal agency ever. And President Trump signing an executive order yesterday, adding this, doing away with that, and things super pro coal, that's for sure. He signed that EO about big, beautiful, clean coal. EPA is under a whole new mandate. And Cyrus Western will talk about that when he comes on. So, yeah, we got a lot to get to this Friday, and we got 1 hour gone. So we better catch up, huh? 3 hours left in the Finally Friday show, Cowboy State Daily Show. And thank you for being there first thing in the morning. More coming up, but we got to take a break for our radio affiliates. They're going to play their news. We'll do ours. And we'll see you in about 6 minutes.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. From the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. News is brought to you by the Cody Night Rodeo, where real cowboy action comes alive. Get your tickets starting March 2nd at CodyStampedeRodeo.com. A parent of a kindergartner is angry after a teacher at Sage Elementary School in Rock Springs read a book about non-binary gender ideology to her son's class. Cowboy State Daily's Kate Meadows reports that the principal said the teacher stopped reading the book when she realized what it was about.
The parents say the book was read in its entirety. They want the school to teach kindergartners how to read and not push an agenda. Now, the school will say, we're not trying to push an agenda. The parents want to know, how did the book get in this kindergarten classroom in the first place?
My Shadow is Purple is a rhyming picture book by Scott Stewart about a child whose shadow is neither the traditional boy color of blue nor pink, but purple, representing a mix of both, but also something new. In an effort to fix Wyoming's physician shortage, a bill to create a new pathway for foreign-trained doctors has advanced in the House. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that Representative Jacob Wasserberger says Wyoming is headed for a health crisis.
Wyoming is projected to lose around 335 physicians by 2030, which is just around the corner. And currently, 18 of Wyoming's 23 counties have a health professional shortage. And so this is lawmakers and working with medical administrators and professionals around the state trying to get ahead of the problem.
The bill passed its introduction vote 60-0 with 2 members excused and was assigned to the House Labor Committee. No members spoke in opposition. I'll be back with more news from the Cowboy State Daily News Center right after this. WYDOT wants to remind you, download the Wyoming 511 app for hands-free information on your mobile device. This message is from the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
My name's Brady Thornock. I manage my family's ranch here in Uena County. Ranching teaches you to think long-term, and it teaches you that Wyoming stays strong when there's real work here. That's why I'm building a data center on this ranch with a Wyoming company called Prometheus Hyperscale. This project will create thousands of Wyoming jobs, and it will use Wyoming's natural gas resources. We need to build Wyoming. I'm doing this for the future of Wyoming.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com. What if you didn't have to travel out of state for expert rheumatology care? Hoskinson Health Rheumatology offers access to 2 world-class rheumatologists right here in Gillette. From early joint pain to complex autoimmune disease, patients receive advanced diagnostics, in-house infusion therapy, and coordinated care. Expert rheumatology expertise close to home. Hoskinson Health Rheumatology. We are the future of healthcare now, and your doctor works here. Visit hoskinsonhealth.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. The 2 men killed Sunday when their semi-trailer exploded on impact with another semi on I-80 near Green River were identified on Wednesday. Cowboy State Daily's Greg Johnson reports that a father-son driving duo was from Citrus Heights, California.
The son was driving at the time. The truck veered over through an extra lane and hit this other truck that was illegally parked on the side of the highway. And as in a movie, their truck exploded on impact. Their family has put out a post on a GoFundMe page that kind of explains, just how it was really, of course, sudden. Nobody could see it coming. Now, the truck was parked illegally. You're only supposed to be able to park on the highway if you have an emergency.
According to the Wyoming Highway Patrol, 36-year-old Aleski Fadoon was driving their Volvo semi-trailer along with his father, 76-year-old Vladimir Fadoon, before 5:30 a.m. Sunday when the truck drifted from the far left lane through the right lane and collided with the parked semi. Cheyenne Lead's CEO, Betsy Hale, says that she's got a solution for the Heinz building, which has been empty for over 40 years, and the burnt-out area next to it known as, quote, the hole, unquote. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that Hale says she has the funding to turn the area into 69 units of workforce housing.
Changing that has involved layering a whole bunch of different things together, different financial packages, plus a pledge from Cheyenne Leads to put in $1 million to this project. There's a $6 million grant from the WCBA.
Carved out by a fire that destroyed Mary's Bake Shop in 2004, the gaping Heinz Hole, as it's often called, has become a symbolic void right in the middle of Cheyenne's downtown. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.
I got it. Are you a dog?
I wouldn't do that. Have you seen the pliers? Where'd you find those?
It's not your birthday.
Sorry.
Bye, Grandpa. Bye, Grandpa.
Take care of yourself.
What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Cowboy State Daily Show on a finally Friday. Max Watson pops in at an unusual time, but not unwelcome. Are you handing out checks? Because I'll take one.
I was going to say, I actually have one if you would like one. Yes, I'm handing out checks for no apparent reason to people who I agree with or agrees with me. I mean, that's what's going on, right? I mean, come on. What is this? Look, if you're not paying attention, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
A woman from Teton County, the head of the Teton County GOP, right, named Rebecca Bextel. She was seen and photographed giving out checks to people in the legislature, right, on the House floor, right? Mike Yin, who I'm sure is familiar with Rebecca Bextel, and they're familiar with each other, stands up and goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And suddenly people are like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! Why?" My first thought was, why is not a lawmaker? Why is a citizen on the House floor? A, in this day and age, how did somebody get on the House floor?
Right.
Okay. And then we find out that she got in there by being part of the media, which that's a totally different story for a different day. Okay. And then B, what are you doing? Like, if you're going to do this, why are you doing it now? You know what I mean? It's like walking into a wedding and not waiting to give the gift at the reception. You walk into the ceremony, the actual part of the wedding that, is kind of important. Legislators are making laws. They're trying to figure out the budget. And you just walk in like you're the candy man or something like that with a bunch of checks. Wait a minute. Why are you doing that now? And then C, what are the checks for? What are you going to do with them? Yeah. I mean, I was actually talking to somebody the other day about this, and I said, I totally missed this story. It is so bizarre that, and you and I have been around a long time, right? You and I have seen a lot of stuff. You and I have, covered politics, seen politics, that kind of thing. Either this is the biggest middle finger to the process of legislation, or this is the biggest like idiot move I've ever seen. Why do you have to give out the checks? What are they for? And if I'm somebody that took one, because there's actually photographic evidence too of people taking the checks, why did you take it? What are you going to do with it? I don't know if this is a big thing, a little thing, but I know it's not a no thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the three things you pointed out, A, B, and C, are what everybody's talking about. A and B being time and place. Wrong time, wrong place. Day one of the session on the House floor, wrong time, wrong place. C is, what are the checks for? Are they legit? I think it'll turn out, I know Rebecca Bextel. She's not going to do anything that's wrong, and she has said on her socials the checks are legit. It's the time and place. Rebecca, I want to get her on the show. She tends to go full send when she does political stuff. She's okay. It is no doubt there was intent here. I'm pretty sure. But anyway,
but was it symbolic or was it for show for something else to send a message?
Don't know what the show was for. We'd have to ask her, but that's totally in her wheelhouse is to do something like that.
Here's the other thing too, since you know her and know a little bit more than I do, because I'm in a very different part of the state. The people she gave checks to, are they in Teton County? Like why is somebody from Teton County giving checks to other legislators?
Yeah.
That's the part that'd be like if somebody from where I am in Park County just going down to Cheyenne and just handing out $100 bills.
Yeah.
To certain legislators. Why?
We'll find out.
Is that your job?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't know that part either. And this seven-person committee that's been assigned the task force to find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out in the coming. We all know what I'm just interested in a couple of side things, Mac, that I don't hear anybody talking about. Maybe you and I have noticed. Number one, it's interesting the immediate reaction to Democrats took exception with that process, with the look of it. Carly Provenza.
Well, the Republicans should too.
I know, but
I would think.
Carly Provenza took a photo. She's like, "This is not right. I'm going to take a photo," and she did.
Right.
And Representative Mike Ginn said,
"Whoa,
this is not right. This is out." And I found it interesting that two Democrats stood right up and said it's not right. And they were immediately pretty much shouted down. In fact, Rachel Rodriguez Williams made a point of order thing. There was a point of order saying you're out of order and, sit down and that kind of thing. Now we get a full unanimous vote of the House saying, it was wrong. But initial knee-jerk reaction was, sit down, you two Democrats. You saw nothing here.
Well,
I found that telling.
Wouldn't you do that? Somebody's handing out money. Hey, whoa. I want some of this money. What are you doing?
Well,
don't stop the party.
I don't know. The first two people to say, wait a minute, that's not right.
Right.
And then also, this Scott Clem in an article, we're going to talk to Scott later. He's going to be on Cowboy State Daily Columnist. He did say it was also wrong to accept the checks, but I don't wonder if you weren't totally flabbergasted. Like, I know some lawmakers said, okay, but they probably were just like, what is going on? I don't know if we can take anything from the fact that they accepted the check on the House floor. In hindsight, they probably wish, Rebecca, wrong time, wrong place. Let's do this later.
Well, let's go back to Nixon. What did the president know, and when did he know it?
Yeah.
What do these lawmakers actually know about I don't even know if it's a procedural thing, but what do they know about the checks, and when did they know it?
Yeah.
And why didn't somebody say wrong time, wrong place? Instead, it was just, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're already saying it's wrong and Rachel Rodriguez Williams maybe doth protest too much, well, then that draws attention. I mean, wow, on both sides. Wow. And I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but the reaction. Look at the reaction, both sides of whoa, this is wrong. And no, you're out of order. Suddenly it's Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah.
With Al Pacino, you're out of order. No, you're out of order.
Everybody out of order.
What's next? Is it Jack Nicholson? You can't handle the truth. I don't know, man. But like I said, I was talking to somebody going, I totally missed it. Because I've never seen something like this before. We have never seen a shot on C-SPAN of somebody just walking into Congress and handing out checks to our elected political heroes.
Yeah.
What?
And kudos to Representative Provenza, Representative Yin, who did notice immediately, because you and I see that, and we have to
I don't know.
We have to second guess it. We have to say,
right.
Is that what I thought? Was that we both of us? We have to digest it for like 48 hours. Did that really happen? Was that bad? Was that what I think it was? All this, and immediately those two right away said, "No, that is inappropriate."
So let me get my tinfoil. Oh, I don't have my tinfoil hat, but let me go down this road for just a minute. Remember Ed Cooper saying a certain thing a couple weeks ago about certain people get certain things, but I can't substantiate it. I mean, is this, have we finally seen how the sausage is made?
Well, yes.
I mean, maybe that's conspiratorial. Maybe that's, I don't know. But Ed Cooper a couple weeks ago says, hey, I can't prove this, but this is what's going on.
I know.
And then we see this blatantly in the light of day. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they find.
What American does not suspect secretly or overtly that our politicians are paid for their vote? I mean, that's like, it's not even, it's commonplace now to think that, but you just never see it. That's usually behind closed doors.
Exactly.
The check is in the mail, not the check is right there on the floor, on the house floor.
Right.
Oh,
and
my
then you
goodness.
have to get into where's the check from?
Yeah.
Who wrote the check? What bank account is for the check from? Because remember, you've always heard that the Koch brothers, George Soros, all these other, people that lurk in the shadows trying to change the way that we do business in America. I mean, my first thought was, like you said, wow, light of day, cockroaches just scatter. All right, let's figure out where's these checks from? Why is a person from Teton County giving it out? Is there a mechanism that needs to happen for it to be distributed if it is okay to be distributed? I mean, I've just got so many questions. And good for Bo Beitman of saying, hey, we're going to look into this right now. Let's give some grace. We're under a deadline here, but we got to look into this now.
No,
good for him.
He knew the import of it. He knew how crucial. Well, he stopped all the budget. He's like, I know we got a budget to pass, and we're going to really wish we had more days, but we got to stop right now, screech, and for 2 hours discuss what just happened and what we're going to do about it.
Banging that you keep hearing, that dunk, dunk, dunk. That's Governor Gordon banging his head on his desk, going, what the crap? Really? Come on, people.
The governor is going to be on later today. We'll see if he has a bruise on his forehead.
Exactly. Ask him, does it hurt? Does what hurt? Your forehead from banging your head against the desk.
Totally. This Friday is kind of the opposite of a slow news day. We're still trying to unravel who's in the Epstein files, still trying to figure out who kidnapped Nancy Guthrie, and now we got another mystery to unravel, the case of the checks and imbalances on the House floor in Cheyenne. A lot going on this Friday,
Absolutely.
Matt. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too. I got to get a break in here so I can get Don Day's weather forecast next.
Winter is here. Wind chills below zero, ice and snow. Oh, and the drifts. Oh, you know what it's like. But guess what? Cowboy State Daily has you covered with the most accurate and reliable forecast with meteorologist Don Day. So you know what to expect. You know the saying, if you don't like the weather in Wyoming, just wait 5 minutes. It will change. But you don't have to keep checking the skies or an app on your phone to see if it's going to rain or snow. So make sure you're getting your forecast from Cowboy State Daily's Don Day. Every day.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Talk to Dad.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad! Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? Rate it how you like.
Dinner! Go?
Excellent. Soccer is fun. Yeah, I saw you guys out there.
All right, let's get right back into it. In studio is Don Day with the day weather forecast. Don, full transparency. I'm gonna, if we paid you by check, we would just do it right here on the open in front of everyone. But I'm gonna.
No, I don't know. It's got to be cash.
I'll Venmo you right
20s,
now.
All 20s and 100s
in non-consecutive numbers, serial numbers. Yeah, and none of that funny red dye in the bag either. All right. Well, you need, I don't know what amount of money can get you forecasting a winter this winter. It has been bizarre for sure. But it's kind of sort of coming around to be a more normalish winter, although we will see some 50s across the state today, mid-February. You said it would.
It's going to stay very mild. The airflow is all Pacific. So
yeah.
It's really important to understand where your air is coming from, and we're cut off from Canada, and we will be through Monday. So it's going to be pretty mild, and it's actually going to be pretty quiet. We're still going to have some rain and snow chances in the far southeast later today and tonight, but the rest of the state, we're going to see a storm go across the southern Rockies and southern plains, and then we await the next storm system coming off the west coast of British Columbia. It's going to slide down the California coast. It is going to push a wave through here Monday night, Tuesday, and we'll need to keep an eye on that because while it is going to be a very quick mover, these types of fronts will produce a brief period of pretty heavy snow, especially in the Wyoming western mountains and valleys. Could be a bit of a travel concern Monday night and Tuesday over some portions of the state. Then another wave comes through Thursday. Another wave comes in next weekend. So we got 3 systems next week that are going to come through.
I've been watching the timing of the first wave. Initially, I thought it would disrupt a little of the weekend travel, but we're going to hold off on that. That's good news. Is there any, well, yes or no, check yes or no, as George Strait sings. Is there a, what do you call it? A flow aloft? Is it fast? Is the jet stream?
Is it moving really fast?
Yeah.
Is that the question? Well, it is off the Pacific coast where it's building this trough of low pressure in. But On top of us, no. At the moment, it's not going to be very fast. Now, we do expect with that wave coming through Tuesday, that's why we need to watch it, because it's going to cause a band of heavy snow in the western part of the state. It will cause a lot of wind in the central and eastern portions of the state. So there's going to be a very busy pattern next week where you kind of need to be ready for a little bit of everything next week.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Including 3 pulses from the Pacific. And if they collide with anything Canada sends, it's going to look like winter around here.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. Once we can kind of get the colder air to mix in with this pattern, then something's going to pop eventually.
Yeah.
But right now it's still favoring the mountains.
Well, I know Wyoming weather forecasting is not a challenge for you. We'll expand your horizon a little bit. Is it? I heard like Australia is like wicked hot. Are they having a super hot summer?
Yeah, they've had some hot weather, just like the Northern Hemisphere has had some really cold weather.
Yeah.
It's summer in the Southern Hemisphere. So
yeah,
when people say it's been hot in Australia, I say it's summer. It gets hot there.
It's Australia, yo.
It's like when people complain to me about how hot it is in Arizona. It's a desert.
Yes, which is why I'm it's a desert. That's why I'm suspicious of the dude on the Ring doorbell camera who probably snatched Nancy Guthrie. He's wearing a ski mask in Arizona. That makes you a suspect.
That's a little sus, yes.
Totally. Thanks, Don. Have a great weekend. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Yeah, we don't wear ski masks in Arizona unless you're up to no good. Unless you got Nancy Guthrie in the trunk. Okay, where am I? I got to go right into the Zoom room. Steve Harshman's waiting, I think. I hope Representative Harshman will be with us. He's just nomenclatured as the generic Zoom user, so you never know. But let's, yeah, that's him. Representative Harshman, how's your day going so far? You're up early. You guys were up late last night, probably, right? That's what I hear.
Yeah, we finished up. It's a long day. I don't know, 10:30ish, 10:45ish, and get home. You can't it takes a while to unwind a little bit. So glad to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Former Speaker of the House, Representative Harshman's been at it for quite a while. House District HD 37, longtime Casper coach. This has got to be looking like a football. Politics anymore is like a football game, maybe. You don't even need the sports analogies. Have you, we got to go right to it. The checks and imbalances scandal, whether you call it a maneuver, a stunt, whether the checks are legit or not. What do you think, Representative Harshman? You ever seen anything like it? Wrong time, wrong place? Do you still want to wait until see what the task force does? What are your initial thoughts about the whole check thing?
Yeah, probably most like everybody in Wyoming. I wasn't there when it happened. I didn't see it. Really, all I know is what I read, in the paper. And so, and when I read that, I was like, no, can't be, and that was my first reaction. And so, yeah, not ever seen anything or heard of anything like that. And so I think it's unfortunate. The People's House, it's made of people, right? And it's not a perfect institution. None of us are perfect in that. But I think we're going to have to kind of go through this to figure it out and to get it all finished up and then move forward and correct any mistakes. And we got to change rules or whatever to make it really clear on those expectations. But as I said yesterday on the floor, I think it's a bad look. And it shouldn't be happening. And we do better than that. As a Wyoming kid growing up here and in this state, we're better than that. And that's not who we are and what we stand for. So, yeah, we'll work on it and clean it all up, I think, and figure it out. But the public will be right in the middle of it as well. So it'll be good.
Yeah, as you point out, this is the People's House. And we like to think it's a little more sacred than that, or where this stuff. But we do see this stuff happen. I just worry that the arrow is trending that direction because the last few years, I mean, and you yourself, Representative Harshman, have been involved in what is an imperfect people. When you get 60 people together in a room, you never know. There was the dust up with then Representative Chuck Gray, and Representative Gray, now Secretary of State Gray, tends to bring out the best in people, or words that you might wish you could take back. And then there's Representative Bear in the statewide article last year. There's been friction. We just hope we handle it as best we can.
Yeah, I think, you go right outside the House chamber and you take a right where the elevator is, and you look up and you'll see two photos of the 12th legislature, one the Republican members and one the Democratic members. They were so upset with each other, they refused to have their pictures in the same portrait. And then the Democratic photo is torn because there was actual fight broke out on the chamber floor, smashed the portrait over.
Yes.
Every institution in the world, democratic institution, when you get people together that, are really, and you get into this whole debate, and it becomes it becomes very emotional. And I think every one of those institutions has broke out in violence or had not shown their best. And I think, so I think that's where a little grace will come in, and I think we'll get this thing figured out. And if we need to change rules to be very specific, but and I will say this too. I think we've Supreme Court cases, other things has changed public service. There is so much money now. When I first ran for the House, it was a couple $1,000s. I could go down and get a few pamphlets, maybe mailed out and knock on doors. And now it's just thousands of dollars out of state dark money. We don't know who donates it. And so it's just all changed. And we've got a lot of, I guess when I first ran, I had this perception that, gosh, it's all oilmen and ranchers running the place, and then you get down there and it's some of the best people from Wyoming you ever meet, and just with really good intentions and love for this state. And so I think, just keep working. And I think the other thing for people, we had the lowest turnout ever in our primary elections, or one of the lowest ever, so everybody stay involved, and everybody get out and vote in those primaries in August. I think that's the key.
Yeah. Like what you see, don't like what you see. You have a voice. You have the power of the vote, and other countries don't have that. So good words. Yeah, when passions run high in Cheyenne, and they do. I forgot about that. There has been, whenever you see what's the news of today, you think about, it's when passions run high with electeds. There's been fisticuffs and previously at the legislature. So as a former Speaker of the House, what's done is done with this incident, but what are some of the things you want answered, and what would you have done if you were Speaker today? I mean, form a task force and get to the bottom of this, right? I mean, you just stop everything yesterday and say, we need to address this because this is not a great look. A stain, some called it, on the process. What would you have done? Are you happy with what's been put in place as far as getting to the bottom of it?
Yeah, I think Representative Provenza, and I think there were several members, myself included, where once you heard about this, I think there's a couple pathways for members. First is, and the public, you can file a complaint, and that goes to the Speaker, and then he would give the minority floor leader. He could form a committee. A lot of that could be private, though, kind of. But I think what Representative Provenza, with this motion to form a public committee to investigate this, is another way to do that. And I think with the seriousness of this, or the seriousness of the look anyway, I think is the proper way to go. And I think it's important that, I guess there is this going to be the new thing now in Wyoming, where we bring special committees to investigate each other and all this stuff. I hope not. I don't think so, but I've never heard of or seen checks passed out if that's what happened on the floor of the House. So it would be unprecedented. And I think, a committee will get to this, find out what happened, what didn't happen, and get the whole thing out to the folks. Because one of the members on the floor yesterday said, the difference between facts and truth. Okay. But another member said, perception becomes reality. And if the people of Wyoming perceive that this is the way it works, then that becomes the reality. What they think about the legislature, kind of what I thought about the legislature when I first came down here, and that my perception was all wrong. And I want us, it'll be good to get the facts out.
Yeah, and the facts may show that there's nothing wrong with the checks had they been mailed or given away, later and not on the floor on day one. You mentioned that was Representative Landon Brown, who we just had on the show, who regurgitated an old Lee Atwater quote, "Perception is reality." So whether the checks are legit or not, worried about. Two more things while we have you, Representative Harshman. Obviously, we need to get down to the business of the budget session, and that's the budget. And there's going to be a lot going on there, whether it's proposed cuts from the appropriations to UW and to the Business Council. We're taking a hard look at the budget. Overall, what are you feeling about the budget? Did the governor turn in a pretty lean budget? Do you like most of that? Is there a group that wants to cut just to cut? Do we need the Doge? Is government bloated? I mean, what are your feelings on just spending money, taxpayer money?
Yeah, I think, first of all, we're blessed in Wyoming. We most of our revenues come from minerals and then legacy minerals, the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund. And we are the least taxed state in the United States. We have the lowest tax burden. And so it's been decades of work by the former members and others in Wyoming, and our trust fund now surpassed mineral revenue, our investment income, and then we surpassed Alaska a couple of years ago investment income per capita. And it's just really incredible. And there's some members that want to burn that down. They want to break up the trust funds, give the money back to the people. Well, the people didn't pay that. It was mineral companies, right? And it'll keep our taxes low forever. And so we want to continue to strengthen that. There's efforts to diminish that and reduce those revenues and put us in a crisis. There's two sides to this revenue piece and the spending piece. And I thought the governor's budget was lean. I thought it was really appropriate. As we went through the first half of the budget yesterday, and I did 10 years on appropriations. I was the chairman of the committee. That's what I put most of my work in, because budgets are people. And that's what this is all about. And I think these new members from the Freedom Caucus who are running the appropriations, and they've said, gosh, we thought we could cut more. Well, really, if you're going to cut the budget, you're going to first start in the Department of Health, because it's over half the budget. And you're going to cut basically elderly and disabled. And good luck with that. Start closing down nursing homes. And we've been there in these downturns where nursing homes close in Wyoming. And it's tough. And so I think some of these cuts, you go to the banking commission, it's the bankers' own money. They want two more investigators to make sure we don't have fraud in our banks and abuse to protect our citizens. And it's their money they pay to hire people. We wouldn't allow that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And so we're going to go back through these, argue them, and then, of course, the university and others. But and we're going to have a big talk about schools. I mean, we're in a stay in a lawsuit. We got a bill that has not moved forward. We'll probably stay with our current law, which is a good thing. And so there's a lot of work to go on. But yesterday I was in the travel committee, and it was a full room of outdoorsmen and landowners who are opposed. It was a really good meeting. Folks shared, but the thing was full, and people were involved, and they made a difference. So I would encourage people to stay involved, keep contacting your legislator, and just reach out to them by phone or email, and because it does make a difference, and we want to hear from people.
It does mean a lot to representatives, to electeds. Are you talking about HB 19, the corner crossing?
Yeah. You know, and that bill, gosh, I brought that bill in 2011 and got one vote in committee. And so here we are with a court case, and we're trying to make our laws basically match up with what the court said. So it's not a crime now to corner cross and to not touch, you know, the private land and step across the corner. And so we're moving forward, and but people continue to get involved, makes a big difference.
It does. It's important. We're talking with Representative Steve Harshman in this early morning after a late night at it. Former Speaker of the House, and I didn't know about the appropriations background. That's pretty key as well. You've been doing this since 2003. House District 37, he represents you. Representative Harshman, thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Well, I tell you, it's thank you for the opportunity to serve this precious state. And it's just been, other than being called dad and coach, it's been such an honor. So thank you so much.
You bet, Coach. Thanks for being on. Go earn your $150 today. You're right back at it, man.
We're at it. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Honor. Appreciate it.
Cowboy State Daily Show continues. The conversation continues. Scott Clem will be here right after this quick break.
News happens at any time, any place. That's why at Cowboy State Daily, we're dedicated to the stories that matter, with reporters stretching from your hometown across Wyoming and beyond. It doesn't matter if it's happening in Yellowstone, the capital in Cheyenne, or the most remote slice of Wyoming. With over 150 years of combined journalism excellence, if it affects Wyoming, it affects you, and we've got it covered. Upstream from the herd, we're Cowboy State Daily.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because it felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Logan Wilson here at the M Building in Casper, Wyoming. They do more than just support businesses and private events. They support nonprofits by offering reduced rates to help the community thrive. The staff here at the M Building have been incredible in helping me organize a fantastic event. They are great partners for those who want to make a positive impact on the community. Come check out the M for your next event.
Hate is loud. It gets clicks. It gets attention. Hate, however, is actually quite small. But love is the majority. Filling up something far more important than any feed. Love fills our hearts, our lives, our every day with understanding, empathy, and compassion, leaving hate to become what it truly is, a whisper.
Cowboy State Daily Show on a finally Friday, and we are just tearing through this show. Day is moving fast, too fast for me to even drink coffee and keep up. Scott Clem joins us. Scott's a former legislator. He's been there, done that in Cheyenne. Currently a Cowboy State Daily columnist, and appreciate you turning around that your latest piece so quickly. I mean, this kind of just happened. This is in the peak of the news cycle. It's all the buzz in Cheyenne. It's the great checks and imbalances scandal, I'll call it. You wrote a piece. I gleaned a lot from it, and you called it a mess of constitutional proportions. So it is big, because we're all wondering, Scott. I think all of us saw it, and we're like, that looks wrong. But we wondered to what degree it felt wrong and is wrong. And to a high degree, I think, Scott, is what you would say.
Right. Good morning. I'm here actually at the Laramie County Library. I'm here for WCCA, the County Commissions Association. So
yeah.
If there's some background noise, it's forgive that. So yeah, it was kind of a quick turnaround. I stayed up. Well, actually, we had a long full day on Wednesday, and came back to the hotel room and opened up the news, and then I saw the stories, and it was funny because I was actually talking to Claire. I met her up at I told her, like, I don't know if I'm going to get a piece done this week, and then that was all the inspiration I needed. So seeing what was in the news. So yeah, I stayed up till 1:30 producing that. Immediately for me, because I think back to my old legislative days, and every legislator does an orientation, and in that orientation, at least I remember, they really beat that drum pretty hard about no quid pro quo, no this for that, no bribery. And that is rooted in our Constitution. In fact, it's Article 3, Section 42, which talks about bribery of legislators and solicitation of bribery, defined expulsion of a legislator for bribery solicitation. Section 43 talks about offers to bribe. Section 44 talks about witnesses in bribery charges. Is it bribery? I don't know. It sure looks that way. It looks damning. And that photo that was snapped is like, man, like it doesn't get much worse than that. And so I part of my recommendations in the piece was to say there needs to be a full investigation. It doesn't. There is an ethics committee that, goes through complaints and whatnot with the legislature, but a lot of times that's behind closed doors. And my thought is, no, this is something that is all out in the public and needs to be dealt with publicly. And so I had recommended in that piece to go ahead and do some kind of investigation. And lo and behold, that's exactly what the House decided to do yesterday. It was unanimous. I think there was some reluctance on part of some members. If you listen to some of the debate, Rachel Rodriguez, she still seems to be kind of deflecting or making excuses. To me, it reminded me of the Epstein vote, when all of Congress, except for one person, decided to vote for the release of the Epstein files. But, many of them did that more out of political expediency than anything else. And I think that's some of what's going on. I hope not, but I suspect some of that. But they're moving in the right direction nonetheless. They got this investigative committee. I'm sure we'll find out today probably who's going to be on that committee. I'm hopeful that Speaker Nyman will. He's an upstanding guy. He's a guy of, I consider, high moral character, and so I think he'll do Wyoming right by what follows and the people that he puts on that. That's my hope and my belief. So we're moving in the right direction. And then the Senate is also, sounds like, doing similar things as well. So I am pleased with the response from leadership. I think they're not sweeping it under the rug, and they're dealing with it with the sense of gravity, the sense of weight that it requires.
Yeah, the deed is done, and you mentioned an ethics committee that could work behind the scene, but no, this was put out in the open. Same as the check distribution. This was put to the floor. Halt. Put the brakes on anything budget, and let's spend 2 hours talking about what just happened and what we're going to do about it. So it was played out transparent. I think it was a good reaction.
Yeah, I'm still just kind of baffled that the whole thing took place.
Yeah.
To be honest, and some of it's just kind of to me common sense, and I think that's one of the things that really just more than anything I was bothered by. If I was bothered by anything, I was bothered more so with some of the legislators, like you didn't have the wherewithal to say no, this is not the time or the place. Like no, we're not doing this here. And I understand that some in the upper chamber, the Senate, that is something along those lines occurred. So kudos to the Senate or the senators, whoever was offered checks. But I mean, and I kept thinking about this, right? If this was the last day of the session, maybe they would have given more of a pass, but this is the very first day of the session. And it's like it gives it communicates this idea that, here's a check and I just bought you for the next 4 weeks. Here's I'm buying your vote. And that's how it comes across.
Yeah.
And it's so repugnant. I think that's just what bothers people is, man, campaign financing, that's a real thing. It's a legal thing. And that's where I think this investigation will come in. Was it technically illegal? I don't know. And I think that's where the investigation will help. But man, it sure does look like it. And yeah, on the first day of the session, no less. It's like, man, yeah. Where's the judgment? I guess I'm still. You can just tell I'm baffled by this. I'm still wrestling with this. The lack of judgment is what really kind of gets to me. So.
But even if the payments turn out to be okay, legit, above board, constitutional, the time and place on the floor on day one. Yes, it gives the appearance of what we all secretly think is politicians are paid off for their vote, what would you rather have it though? I guess there is an argument. Would you rather have it take place secret? Like, I'll put the check in the mail, or I'll give it to you in your hotel room later in the hallway, or would you rather have it like right out in the open? This is I don't know.
Yeah, and my argument to that is like, well, let's just not do it at all during this session, right?
Okay.
Like that's again, time and place. What I've never experienced anything like that personally, and all the time that I served in the House, I was never offered any money. I don't know anybody who was, and so that's to me where I struggle a little bit, and not only that, but the filing period to file for office, that's not until May. So no one has filed for office. Anybody who is running for an office, typically, it's things like governor or something like that. Some of these bigger races where they've already put together their committees and whatnot. And I can understand some of that, but part of what I wrote in that piece is that what we've all kind of taken for granted and what's been common sense for a long time. I think we have to have some formal guardrails. And I hate that it's come to that, but I think, and I know there's rules being proposed right now in the House and the Senate that essentially says as much. We are not going to allow any kind of exchanging of funds, any kind of campaign financing or fundraising. We're not going to do that during the legislative session. We're not going to do that anywhere on the Capitol grounds, and that's common sense. But I think we need to spell it out for those that aren't quite getting it.
This instance, this case that we're talking about, this buzz right now, it reminds me, and I know a lot of our listeners and readers at Cowboy State Daily, why it's so crucial to have a guy like you on board, sort of attached to us, if we could make a claim on you, Scott, because you're not in it, and I think some in it right now are maybe sometimes blinded to things, but you've been there. You understand what it is, and so you bring a great inside perspective, but a clear perspective in it, but not of it anymore. And we're talking about the mess of constitutional proportions, as Scott Clem points out, quid pro quo. It's identified in our Constitution, Article 3, Section 42 through 45. And former legislator, current Cowboy State Daily columnist, wrote the column. You got to go read it now. Checks on the House floor? Absolutely not, says Scott Clem. One other thing you did note in your piece, every lawmaker who accepted a check under these circumstances has to check themselves, sorry for the pun, before they wreck themselves. They are also partly to blame, but I don't wonder if some were just totally overwhelmed with the situation. Like before they even knew what they were accepting, like maybe if they had it to do over, they'd be like, no, Rebecca, not here, not now. Well, but it had to surprise some.
Yeah, and I've thought about that too, and I do think that's the case. It's a good learning experience for all of us. Again, I think I heard of two different cases where a couple of senators rejected it. I think I've heard one where someone actually took the check, received it initially, and then took it straight to LSO, the Legislative Service Office, and said, here's what happened. Good on them. And I heard of another senator, a woman who just flat out refused. And I think, legislators need to almost prep and prepare and kind of train themselves for circumstances like that, recognizing that there is a time and place, and now is not the time and now is not the place.
Yeah, I know in the lower house, and some of the lower house, they just got there literally yesterday. And yeah, everybody goes through the initiation, but yeah, maybe you don't expect to have to apply that new knowledge right away on day one when your ethics are called into question.
Like I said before, this is a new experience. I've never heard of this happening before, and I think it's the newness of it. And in some sense, in Wyoming, we've been shielded, right? This smells more like kind of like DC politics, DC shenanigans, and it's just in Wyoming we haven't worked that way, but we're experiencing that more and more, where it seems like DC, its tentacles are reaching into Wyoming, and we're having things like this happen too. So it's a new day.
It is a new day. And what's at stake, Scott points out in the article, public trust. It's too precious to squander. It takes too much to get it built up to a point, and you can tear it down with one instant. In 1 second, it could all be gone. And that's what's at stake. Scott, continue on at the library there. It sounds quiet.
Yeah. I hear noise behind you. So, yeah. All right. Well, very good. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Good to see you this morning.
You too. Cowboy State Daily Show, finally Friday at Scott Clem, and we're still talking about the buzz all week long in the House with the great check scandal. Representative Landon Brown was on earlier to talk about it. Representative Steve Harshman also addressed it and what's to be done. And Scott Clem, who was there not long ago, former legislator, gave his insight of the Cowboy State Daily Columnist. Read that column. It's very interesting. Kind of expresses views that many of us have, I think. Checks on the House floor? ? Absolutely not. It's a bad look. Scott Clem and his article. Next hour, we got nothing but heavyweights, huh? Governor Mark Gordon's going to be on the show in the next hour. Cyrus Western, the EPA Region A Director, will be on. Huge news out of D.C. regarding Trump's executive order, Trump's revamping of the agency completely. Many are calling it the most wide-sweeping change of direction and directives ever. To a big agency, federal agency like the EPA. Huge what we've seen, what changes. What does it all mean for us out on the West, for Wyoming? Cyrus Western will put it all into perspective. And Wes Binder, Oregon State University grad, working on a PhD, and his new study, lead author on this new study, regarding do cats and dogs get along? I think that's an old one. Of course not. And they don't. Spoiler alert, his study regarding cougars and wolves and how each has altered their behavior living in the same world with each other is super interesting. The study on mountain lions, cougars, and how they get along or don't get along with wolves. Very interesting. Wes will be on next hour. So all that coming up, and yeah, lots more to do. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. We're halfway through and halfway to go. Don't leave us. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss any of this stuff. And don't forget, tomorrow, we got Saturday version of the show, of course, with Jeff Rickett. He's been doing the show for a few weeks now, and it's been fun. Jeff has got you covered tomorrow, Saturday morning. So, yeah, we're just coming at you everywhere, all the time in the Cowboy State Daily Show. But right now, we got to step aside for news for our radio affiliates, and we'll pick the conversation up right after that.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. From the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. News is brought to you by the Cody Night Rodeo, where real cowboy action comes alive. Get your tickets starting March 2nd at CodyStampedeRodeo.com. All 59 Wyoming representatives who were on the House floor on Thursday afternoon voted to convene a special committee to investigate the checks given to lawmakers on the House floor on Monday. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the committee will investigate a slate of misconduct.
That exploded again Thursday when Representative Carly Provenza, who originally shot the photographs of this incident, brought a provision to convene a 7-representative investigative panel to determine whether this was bribery or misconduct. There was extensive debate, like 3 hours.
Rebecca Bextel is not a state legislator or a registered lobbyist. She's a political activist, and after starting her outlet, the Open Range Record, she was registered to attend this year's session as a member of the media. Senate President Bo Biteman told colleagues on Thursday that Wyoming needs to stop waiting and start leading as demand for electricity is expected to spike. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that Biteman spelled out a vision that would put Wyoming in front of Trump's push for American energy supremacy.
So one bill that was voted into introduction on Thursday directs the Wyoming Energy Authority to study the transmission opportunities. What is the best way for Wyoming to approach the energy market? Senate President Bo Biteman stood on the floor today and told his fellow senators that he wants Wyoming to be the tip of the spear.
Introducing Senate File 123, the Wyoming Energy Dominance Fund, Biteman spelled out a vision for the state to position itself at the front of the Trump administration's push for American energy supremacy, backed by roughly $105 million in redirected severance tax revenues. I'll be back with more news from the Cowboy State Daily News Center right after this. WYDOT wants to remind you, download the Wyoming 511 app for hands-free information on your mobile device. This message is from the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
My name's Brady Thornock. I manage my family's ranch here in Uena County. Ranching teaches you to think long-term, and it teaches you that Wyoming stays strong when there's real work here. That's why I'm building a data center on this ranch with a Wyoming company called Prometheus Hyperscale. This project will create thousands of Wyoming jobs, and it will use Wyoming's natural gas resources. We need to build Wyoming. I'm doing this for the future of Wyoming.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com. What if healthcare worked the way it should? Hoskinson Premier Care. Comprehensive quality care with one predictable fee. Unlimited office visits, annual wellness exams, preventative screenings, and advanced imaging. Primary and specialty care, in-house labs, mental health and wellness support, including physical therapy and nutrition. Just for $250 a month. No copays, no deductibles. World-class care right here in Gillette. We are the future of healthcare now, and your doctor works here. Visit HoskinsonHealth.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. Wyoming officials are universally cheering the Trump administration's Thursday repeal of an Obama-era rule that was the linchpin for EPA climate regulations. Cowboy State Daily's Greg Johnson reports that environmental groups say the move ignores science and invites legal challenges.
What they say is that it really was a giant overreach on government's part to then just be able to use this rule to say it affects the Clean Air Act. Everybody I talked to within Wyoming said that this is way past due. There are detractors. Environmental groups say that they're going to keep fighting it. I think they were just ready to sue whenever this came down. So that's going to face lawsuits.
By eliminating the rule, President Donald Trump and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin say they are doing away with the single largest deregulatory action in U.S. history, according to an EPA statement announcing the move. A Wyoming House committee advanced a bill Thursday that would provide funding for a study on how data centers, carbon capture, and other large-scale industrial projects might sap or impact the state's water supply. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports this is just the beginning.
It would be $500,000 to investigate the things that take water out of our water cycle, that sap Wyoming water. Data centers were implicated in that bill. And an environmental group that actually said, we don't want you to pass this bill right now, said that's because it wasn't big enough. It didn't give enough money. It didn't have enough scope of investigation. They want to go bigger.
Representative Carly Provenza out of Laramie says data centers pose a consequential problem in Wyoming. And that's a look at today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.
When you hear the words nonprofit organization, what comes to mind? Is it a place your dog called home before finding you? Is it an organization that supports accessibility? Is it a place that ensures your safety and that of those you love? That protects endangered wildlife and habitats, or fights for our most basic needs? It's impossible to show all the ways nonprofit organizations make a difference in our world. One animal, one person, one cause at a time. But it's not impossible to be part of it. Profit organization that needs what you can give. You help promote, protect, and strengthen the reach of these incredible organizations. The Nonprofit Alliance is here, helping connect people like you to the nonprofits that enrich your life, your community, and the world we share. Reach out to a nonprofit organization that inspires you today to find how you can help make the world a better place.
Cowboy State Daily Show on a finally Friday, and we go right to the top, right to the Capitol. It's Governor Mark Gordon. And we're going to talk about a bunch of things, so we got to move fast. Let's begin with, I've been reading your writing, Governor, and once the governor thing is over, you are a very good writer. I was reading the op-ed, a cautionary tale about cutting just to cut. Cutting because it's fashionable, because it's a good look for an elected. Whether we're draining the swamp yesterday or dozing government bloat today, D.C. politics ripple effects play out in Wyoming. It's something I never thought I'd see here. Are we cutting just to cut?
Yeah, Jake, good morning, and good morning to everybody online. Yeah, that's what it appears. It appears that we have an agenda. We want to cut the governor's recommendation. And, we have a surplus. We've talked about this. I left $500 million on the table for them to work on. It's because of the good work of the treasurer's office, that's grown. And so we can do some savings. We can make sure that our employees are compensated the right way. And I think the most important thing in this discussion is understanding that by cutting property taxes, we're really hurting local government. We're not really rewarding taxpayers, because the taxpayers that pay to the state are the industries, not the people.
Yeah, property tax cuts just means the ambulance gets there 5 minutes later, if at all. Yeah, it's real stuff for sure. And Wyoming is one of the least, if not the least, taxed states. We're not overtaxed, and we're not falling off a fiscal cliff. So this discussion about the sky is falling, I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I think it comes from a misunderstanding of what the consensus revenue estimating groups estimates are and their projections. They are projections, and so we're mindful of that too. But we've grown, we've expanded, we diversified our economy. Good things are happening. I said our economy was hardy in in the state of the state. That comment and that statement was well received. I mean, we've got things to celebrate, and it is, I feel, at this point, Jake, we either go forward or we go back, and if you're not growing, you're dying, and that's the worry I have.
That was my takeaway is, do we want to grow? Do we want to stay stagnant? Wyoming's not on this fiscal cliff. We have a budget surplus and a lowest tax burden. These are things that should be celebrated. And let's make a sound investment in future generations. That all sounds good. It sounded good when I heard you say it in the State of the State to kick off the budget session. And then as sort of a counter, we saw the Freedom Caucus run a Club No deal out on the Capitol steps. What's your takeaway from that?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is I think they're just trying to play against me. And you know, there were some statements made about students leaving the state if they go to the university, but staying here if they community college, things like that. That just really didn't make sense. And you just came out of a statement where we're talking about, let's work together, let's build this state. We can grow without changing our culture. We can grow without changing the things we love. And they're still going back to that Freedom Caucus Club No crowd saying, you know, we don't like any of this. We're going to cut, and there's so much money being spent, and this fiscal cliff is coming. It's all about fear. And that's not good. That's not good.
Cuts sound good in the headlines, but what do they really mean? We're talking about a state that is obliged to educate its people, feed its people, care for the well-being of Wyoming people, and make an investment into the future. So what do cuts mean? All that stuff. Let's see. What else do you want to? Let's talk about turnover. I have heard a bunch of that. Cuts include saying no to pay raises to stay, current with current pay scales. Every time you lose an employee, you got to hire and retrain another one. We know the costs associated with that. Why not keep our best and brightest? And to do that, you got to pay them today's day and wage.
No, that's the point we've made, Jake, and I really appreciate that. You look at the error rate in our Medicaid expenditures. They did a full audit at the federal level, came down, and they found $413 out of almost $750 million budget. $413. Our error rate on SNAP and CHIPS. Just incredibly small. And that's the work of 2 employees. So if we're not going to raise them, they'll go someplace that really does appreciate their value. And then we'll bring somebody in and they don't necessarily know how the system works and they have to learn all that stuff. Somebody's going to have to sit on top of them. I think about that with the Department of Environmental Quality. We've worked so hard to make sure that we have good intermediaries between the federal regulators and the businesses. And I heard just the other day, this is by far the best state to work in. This is the one that we have people that aren't being, they're not being stingy about regulation, but they are doing a good job of making sure that we can do our business. Same thing really across the board. I'll tell you, one of the things that's really frustrating to me, I didn't talk about it in the State of the State, but our PSC, our Public Service Commission, they represent us all across the country on rate issues. And, this is one of the big issues for Wyoming. When Oregon says something, or California or Colorado, it affects our rates here. And if there's, lawsuits in those states or somewhere, that affects our electricity rates here. We don't have enough staff to be able to be effective in our representation there. So, cutting without understanding what the consequences are, that's cutting just to cut. It's not cutting to make things more efficient. It's not cutting to make them work better.
Cutting parts of the budget also, as you sort of mentioned there, it tears down things that have been built up, some decades worth of work, stuff you've done since you've been in office, and governors before you, whether it's the Wyoming Business Council or whatever. We've built all these things to get to this point, and then just to watch them in one session get cut off at the knees and even eliminated. It makes a governor want to stick around for a third term, I would think, because we are kind of at a crossroads and it's no time to go. It's time to fight.
Jake, I'll take that under advisement. So, yeah. Thanks very much for the vote of confidence. This is such a great state, and if we can just sort of figure out how to make sure that we stay true to our culture of governance here. This is one where we do respect the separation of powers, but when we can work together to solve problems, that's when good things happen. I'll give you a really good example on that. Back in the 1990s, we foresaw what was going to happen with carbon dioxide. And we said, okay, we're going to take the pore spaces and make sure that's the province, those are the rights of the people that own the surface. That was so important because the federal government was saying, we're going to take over all the groundwater. And so by Wyoming establishing that, and it was worked on by the House, by the Senate, by the governor, by establishing that, we protected our rights here in Wyoming. And that is such an important thing to be thinking about the future all the time.
Governor, do you respect the fact Wyoming is made up of 23 diverse counties with communities that have their own interests? Rawlins is not Cody, is not Sundance, is not Cheyenne or Casper. Everybody has, their own perspective, their own things that they want to see happen. Yet it feels like a Freedom Caucus message centralizes the word out of Cheyenne, which may come from another city also.
Well, I think that's exactly right. I think there is a real temptation. You've heard it in testimony in committees and on the floor that to micromanage how towns and counties go. They want to figure out, there's been comments about, well, maybe we should just get rid of some of our smaller towns. There's been comments about we got to oversee this, we've got to oversee that. And then we want to be able to pass on anything a local government does. That's not the Wyoming that I grew up in. The Wyoming I grew up in, and the one that our federal Constitution and our Wyoming Constitution talked about, was government closest to the people. Abraham Lincoln was talking about how important it was that government be closest to the people. And if you centralize it, that's the same thing we're getting out of D.C. Yeah. That's the same thing we rebelled against with Biden. And to have it come down here to Cheyenne is really worrisome. And who knows who's influencing that? That's one of the things that's most concerning to me. There's all this talk about insiders doing this and that. Who are the insiders here? If it's local government, we know your neighbor was there talking to somebody. If it's up here in Cheyenne, we don't know who's coming in and going out.
We're barely 1 week into this budget session, but give me your early impressions, early report card before we get to the great check scandal. What do you take away from what you've seen so far? We're barely talking budget, but we've seen some things. We saw the Senate show perhaps a distaste for dismantling the Wyoming Business Council by a significant vote. We've seen the election reform. It seems to be such a Freedom Caucus core, and that's really kind of gone nowhere. What do you take away from the first 5 days?
Well, I think we've talked about this a little bit before. A lot of these are very new legislators, so I think they're getting their feet underneath them. This is a budget session. This is not to debate everything that comes before it. That's the discipline that we put in the way we run our government. We have the general session where everybody can be talking about things, and then the budget session is supposed to be focused on the budget. So I'm delighted, frankly, that piece of our tradition is still alive. I know that there's a temptation to try to go to a full year legislature, and to me, that's the wrong thing. And so it is good to see that the House and the Senate are kind of winnowing down to the things that are most important, and that is the budget.
One last thing, the check scandal. What did that look like from the governor's office? Cowboy State Daily's Mac Watson suggests that you're doing more than just shaking your head. You might be banging it on something over there in the office. I don't know, but what's it look like to you?
Oh, I think the people of Wyoming deserve a full investigation. I'm incredibly disappointed. And all I could think of was when I used to work for Apache Corporation, I had a person that came to me one time, and he said, it's amazing when you're in Louisiana, you can see these lobbyists patrolling the floor, handing out checks, and that's never been here in Wyoming. And I think we've got to really be thoughtful about what we're doing and being careful, because our reputation's at stake. And so, like I said, I'm not making any comments about rights or wrongs or anything like that, but I do think a full investigation. I'm very disappointed at the optics, and I think it has taken us down a notch in sort of our stature. People should be very disappointed.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not red, it's not blue, it's the public trust, and that's hard to win, and it's so easy to lose.
Absolutely.
Governor, thanks so much for being on. I appreciate you making time for us. Yeah. And
Well, thank you, Jake. And I just got to say, Jalen got that silver. That was cool. And then Breezy got other hardware, and that's really cool too.
I know. I love our Olympic athletes. Way to go, Jalen. I still see that photo of you and Jalen from her other silver. You guys are celebrating the new run on Targhee, and that's so cool. Way to go, Jalen. Way to go, all our Olympic athletes. And yeah, let's concentrate on all the positive things Wyoming's got going for it, and there are a lot. Have a great weekend to you, Governor. News, we get right back to it with Cyrus Western. We're going to talk about this huge EPA decision, this huge EPA news, right after this quick break.
Let's face it, mornings are tough. Gotta get up, gotta get the kids ready, feed the dog, the cat, every other living thing in your house. Oh, get caffeinated. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But you also want to be informed, catch up on what's happening in Wyoming and the world as well. Hear from the newsmakers of the day. That's why Cowboy State Daily has The Morning Show with Jake. Jake Nichols talks about the news you care about, not some ponderous, overwrought, inside the Beltway show that's syndicated out of New York or LA. You want the news that's going to affect you and your life. Jake interviews not only the newsmakers, but the deciders, the people who make the decisions for the future of Wyoming. Plus, you'll hear the stories directly from our award-winning reporters from Cowboy State Daily. So make sure you start your day off the Wyoming way with Cowboy State Daily's Morning Show with Jake Nichols. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Stream it on our homepage. Watch it on YouTube. Cowboy State Daily's Morning Show with Jake. Oh, and don't forget your car keys.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way. My kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
We're not powerless, so long as we don't lose sight of what's important.
Don't be afraid to seize that moment to talk to your friends.
Cloud, you okay?
Because checking in on a friend can create a safe space.
The first step on our new journey. You coming?
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Seize the awkward. It's totally worth it.
There are a lot of words I would use to describe my daughter. Kind, strong, hilarious. When I think about how much she's experienced in her life, on a journey that we're now on together as a family,
I'll make you something to eat, okay?
we can't help but be inspired by her every day.
Hey, Mom. We're about to start the movie.
Oh, yeah, I'll be right there. Okay.
So really, we're the lucky ones. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Cowboy State Daily Show, and we bring in Cyrus Western, EPA Region 8 Administrator. Big news from the administration, from President Trump. I'm hearing it is like the single largest deregulatory action in U.S. history. That's big words. I thought it was big when I heard about it. Big, beautiful, clean coal. Right. The executive order from Trump, and this is kind of remaking of the EPA. That's who you work for. Is this as big as I think it is, Cyrus?
It is. Thanks for having me back on the show. And it absolutely is. This is a really big deal. And I think it's a testament to Administrator Zeldin and to President Trump for saying, hey, we're not here to think small. We're here to think big. These regulations have been hurting Wyoming and the entire extractive industry for decades now. And so I think they deserve a lot of credit and kudos for taking bold, decisive action here.
Help us understand, for somebody like me, explain like I'm 5, what means the repeal of the endangerment finding? What is it?
That's what I tell all my technical staff and PhD engineers is okay.
Yeah.
If you just pulled me off the street, talk to me that way. Yeah. No, so I ties into in this whole debate is what authorities do any executive agencies have to regulate anybody, whether we're talking about the BLM, the Forest Service, the EPA, the Department of Justice, the FBI. I mean, the whole gamut, right? What gives them the authority to do what they do? And the easy answer is that comes from Congress. Congress, the people that we elect to represent us in the House and the Senate, they have to pass laws that say, okay, you, EPA, under this law we have written and that we are going to pass, gives you the authority to regulate and engage in certain regulatory actions, whether it's around water, whether it's around air, whatever it may be. And you need to stay inside this box. This box is the only thing we've given you authority to regulate. If you go outside the box, you are thus beyond the authorization or the permission of Congress. Again, Congress is the ultimate, that's Article 1 of our government. The founders framed that as the most important institution in the land. So it's really important that we color inside the lines that Congress gives us. And so I think that kind of brings us to the specific, this endangerment finding issue is, from day one since that passed, the agency enacted a bunch of legally binding regulations that Congress never gave us the permission to enact in the first place. So once you start coloring outside the lines, I think that becomes a problem because it's the slippery slope. Okay, well, Congress didn't give us the authority to do this, and we've gotten away with it. Let's just go a little bit further on this next thing and this next thing and this next thing. And so that's really why we are here in the first place and why the president and the administrator took this action. And so to get your specific question, what does it do? Congress never gave the EPA the explicit authority, the direct permission, the consent to regulate greenhouse gases. And so I think in terms of process, that's a really big step that the agency took in 2009 to regulate greenhouse gases that Congress never gave us permission to do. And so what the administrator is doing is saying, hey, if you want us to regulate these gases, that's fine, but that needs to come from Congress. They need to pass a law that specifically requires the agency to do so and gives us authority to do so. So this is us, I think, getting back inside the lines of what we are supposed to do as an agency.
Here's what I'm hearing, like I'm 5. You're saying, so President Trump, Administrator Zeldin haven't so much rewritten the book. They've just gone back to the original intent, the real idea. Congress is the boss of EPA. And that makes sense because Congress, you would think, is a little more consistent in the message, in their management and their bossing of the EPA, rather than every 4 years of this president, then that president. That makes sense.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We're just saying, look, if you want us to regulate greenhouse gases, you have to go through the process to do so. And I think in a broader context, and I think, it's easy to ask, well, how does this impact Wyoming? And so the answer is, when that got passed in 2009, both the letter of the regulation that got passed and also the broader impacts set off, I think, this movement, this shift in momentum away from Wyoming. Over the last 15 years, you've seen a lot of actions come about, both by the government and I think in the private sector as well, that were fundamentally hurting Wyoming. So what's a specific example? So all these mines in Wyoming that employ thousands and thousands of our fellow Wyomingites, it was getting harder and harder for them to do business, both in the endangerment finding and in the larger marketplace. For example, any business, a mine, a media show, whoever it is, you have to have access to two things to conduct your business. You got to have access to credit, go to the bank, borrow money, spend it wisely to operate your business, and you got to have insurance. If you don't have insurance, it's a huge liability that you have, right? And so access to credit and access to insurance was getting harder and harder and harder under the last 15 years. We saw the ESG, environmental social governance, and the pushback against the ESG movement to say, wait a minute, we're lawful businesses. We create really good middle-class jobs. Why are we being punished for some of these ideological ideas, these ideological quests that you guys are on? And so the endangerment finding, it specifically is related to vehicles, right? And the regulation of GHGs for vehicles, but in a broader, bigger sense, it is saying to everybody, hey, we need to respect people who are conducting lawful business and who are creating these really good middle-class jobs for America.
It felt like, and you can tell me, Cyrus Western, the EPA Region 8 administrator, looks over these western states that include Wyoming. It feels like that the Biden the Obama era interpretation of how the EPA should operate created the darkest clouds over the states that you oversee, Region 8, western states, Wyoming. And hopefully now with the repeal of that will be the sunniest, and maybe the brightest skies will be over Wyoming and other states out here.
That's exactly right. And I think one of the big pieces of pushback, and I really want to emphasize to listeners, is some people are trying to spin this as, well, this is just a free pass for folks to run around and pollute left and right and spew pollutants into the atmosphere. And that's just not true. The Clean Air Act, again, passed by Congress, supreme law of the land. The Clean Air Act explicitly requires us to regulate other types of pollutants, whether it is particulate matter or some of these other things that if you get them in your lungs, it's bad. It's a direct detriment to human health. We are absolutely enforcing the laws that are on the books, and we are enforcing them vigorously. I mean, our message to all regulated industry is, hey, play by the rules, follow the law, everything's going to be fine. But if you start not breaking the law, we're going to hold you accountable.
And the message to the Pentagon is start burning coal to keep the lights on. That was an executive order.
That's exactly right.
That's good news.
Huge.
Cyrus, how fast can you expect? I mean, government moves so slow. How fast? We're a year into the Trump administration. We're just days from hearing this news about this revamp EPA directive. How soon can we see, like, boots on the ground, actually see change in Wyoming and Utah and all the states that you oversee?
It's hard to say precisely when there will be a concrete reflection of this on the ground. But I think as much it is the literal action that was took, it's as much about planting a flag in the ground to everybody across the market, to banks, to insurance companies, to these mining folks. And I think to regulators is that, hey, we want to put regulation back in a sensible place. Again, Administrator Zeldin says this every single time someone puts a mic in front of him. We can't have clean air. We can't have clean water and a clean environment while simultaneously allowing for industry to operate, create these great jobs, and to hold them to high standards too. I mean, we all need to follow the law. And so, to your question, it's hard to give you an exact date, but I think it sends a very clear message. It's gotten a lot of coverage. A lot of these publications that industry executives read, they're seeing this, and what they should is see this as a marker of like, hey, we can continue to do business with these mining companies. We can lend them money. We can insure their business.
It's the EPA is a big battleship, and they've just been given the directive to turn hard around. It'll take a little bit, but yeah, the message it sends to everybody from banking institutions, everybody that is felt already now today. Cyrus,
exactly.
We don't want to miss an opportunity to talk to a smart guy like you about some slightly
presumptuous of you, but I'll take it.
Slightly unrelated news items, including the pardon of Joe Klecko, former jet great. No, I'm just kidding. Although the president did pardon him. You were in Cheyenne some years that you would like to remember, forget, I don't know, but you were a Wyoming lawmaker. Are you following at all what's going on, this check gate, this check scandal? And did you see anything like that in your time in Cheyenne?
I never saw anything like that ever in my time. And, I'm really, I'll tell you, this job, it's got me pretty busy, so I don't have a ton of time to pay attention, but I loved my time as a legislator. And I think at the end of the day, you've got to protect the integrity of the institution. This is the people's house. So whatever has to happen to ensure that the institution and the integrity of it's being protected, I think that's the ultimate goal here. I mean, this is direct, citizen governance in action. And so it's important for the folks walking down the streets of Cheyenne or Douglas or Thermopolis or wherever that these people are there to do the right thing and conduct themselves with character and integrity.
You've worn a suit and tie in both D.C. and Cheyenne. The fear in Wyoming is we're becoming like D.C. The things we don't like about D.C. and the federal government is like spilling over here. And I just no, I mean, look, it's about let's stick to the basics, right? Let's follow the Constitution and make sure that our communities are a great place to live, work, and raise a family. That's 90+% of the job right there. If you can do those things, I think we're doing a good job. And I think that's what I focused on in my time in Cheyenne. And I really hope that a lot of the folks that are there now are continuing to focus on as well. Yeah. All right. Cyrus Western, anything else going on? EPA Region 8 Administrator Cyrus Western is with us. What else is EPA?
I think that's directly relevant to Wyoming. We're continuing to figure out how can we continue to keep those regulations at a reasonable place. For example, Dave Johnson, right? The big power plant right outside of Douglas when you're driving up and down 25. Dave Johnson, one of the units in Dave Johnson is scheduled to be shut down here in a couple of years. And that plant buys their coal directly from mines in Campbell County. So it is a homegrown, homemade product. We are producing power that's fueled by Wyoming directly. And so I'm working hard to get that turned around and make sure that thing is open to the end of its useful life. And so I think that's a developing story. We're working on it right now. And I think hopefully here later in calendar year 26, we'll have good news and to report that we've got it, that closure turned around and it's fired on all cylinders.
And again, I hope the takeaway from our chats with Cyrus Western is he works for the EPA. The EPA works for the people to make sure there's a clean environment. We're not saying, no matter what the directive, whatever headlines you hear out of the Trump administration, Zeldin, D.C., that we're suddenly going to go dirty. No, the whole objective, your whole directive is to make sure we have a clean environment. That's number one.
That's exactly right. Priority number one, human health and the environment. That's our job.
Excellent. All right, we got to roll on. Have a great weekend, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Cowboy State Daily Show moving along on World Radio Day today, and otherwise known as the day before Valentine's. Let's take a break. We got more coming up.
In Wyoming, you want news from folks who still shake hands and mean it. You just want the facts. That's why more Wyomingites listen to Cowboy State Daily Radio. News that doesn't bend, twist, or dance around the truth. Crisscrossing the state to cover the news the way you like it, with reporters steps away from the Capitol in Cheyenne and in your hometown. No spin, no corporate suits, no duh. Talking about your state. This is Cowboy State Daily Radio.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Who can you turn to for news you can trust? Your local TV and radio broadcasters. You trust us to keep you safe during times of crisis and to deliver the weather, sports, and entertainment you rely on every day. We bring you the facts you need to make decisions that matter. And as misinformation floods social media, you can trust your local stations to deliver the truth. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress you rely on your local stations for trusted news.
You handle the healthcare, we'll handle the marketing. In need of a spark for marketing your medical practice? Loom Studio provides creative and strategic healthcare marketing that illuminates the path to bigger and better experiences for your business and your patients. We specialize in branding and design, social media, website design, SEO and SEM, not to mention content creation, public and media relations, and marketing metrics to ensure you're getting results. If you're looking to increase your patient engagement and retention, enhance your community impact, and streamline your marketing efforts, our team is ready to help you achieve your goals. Contact us today and learn more at loomstudio.com.
I'm Chris Jackamick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jackamick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
We gotta get in the Zoom room. Here we go. Beers down, both hands on the wheel. Highway Patrol right behind us. Aaron, what are we gonna talk about today? Staying safe on the highway. That's always crucial. What about Valentine's Day tomorrow? Is that a day where statistically there's problems on the highway? Not really, right?
Not really, not necessarily. We're not seeing a huge uptick on Valentine's Day specifically. It's not like, like a Super Bowl Sunday or that sort of thing. And even when you do see an uptick in, say, DUIs, it's probably going to be on more on the local level. But that does not stop Highway Patrol from wanting to make sure people get home safe and just making sure we're in the forefront of your mind that you want to watch what you're doing. And it doesn't mean people aren't going to travel. My wife and I, we're going to be going out of town for our Valentine's date. So it's going to happen. And so we want to make sure people are making the right decisions. And it's going to be the basic stuff in the case of Valentine's Day. It's going to be make sure you have a designated driver. If you're going out, especially if you're just staying in your local town, either have a friend pick you up if you're both planning on drinking, or call an Uber. Do what you got to do to make sure you're getting home without having to drive under the influence. And if you are driving, make sure, whether you're driving or not, if you get in a car at all, make sure you're buckling up, because that's the big killer in Wyoming. Whether it's Valentine's Day, 4th of July, or Christmas, it does not matter. That is one of the biggest killers in Wyoming. Is we'll see people roll their vehicle and get ejected from the vehicle because they weren't buckled in.
Yeah, this misperception that somehow you're thrown clear of danger is crazy. It's stupid. It doesn't work. Nothing supports that. And if you look, I look at the NASCAR racing and I watch those guys. You're best off tucked in that vehicle. The vehicle's got so many, modern age security to it, from roll cage to airbags to that safety belt. There's features are there for a reason. Yeah.
And here in Wyoming, too, you have the whole thing of the idea of individual freedom. It's a big deal here in Wyoming. It always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
But it's also, the idea is there. My car, my life, my choice. If I want to wear my seatbelt, I can. If I don't want to, I don't have to. It's not necessarily a primary law. You can get cited for it. If you get pulled over for, say, speeding and you're not wearing your seatbelt, you can be cited for that. At the same time, though, I think I would encourage people just to remember it. Yeah, it's absolutely your choice, but just keep in mind what your choice will do to others, what your family will do without you if something happens.
Yeah.
So wear your seatbelt, drive sober, don't drive under the influence, get a designated driver, and have an awesome, awesome time this Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day for you and the loved one. Are you going to the same restaurant I'm going to? I'm going to be in Buffalo. I'm also hitting the road.
I'm afraid not.
Okay.
We're what style are you going for though?
I'm gonna go to the Ox. We're gonna be at the Occidental, whatever they're serving up there. Yep, a night at the Ox.
I don't know if I'll say exactly where, but we're doing Italian. We have a favorite Italian spot that we go out of town for, and we're gonna be doing that. And so we have a whole date planned. I have a whole date planned.
Yeah.
And doing all that. So it's going to be good. It's good stuff.
Good for you.
Homemade pasta.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Ramette, you got to do that thing where you both work on the opposite ends of a spaghetti strand. Just a suggestion.
We'll see if we can pull that off.
Hey, let's go to Cheyenne. You know, the lawmakers have gathered there and they're making laws and cutting the budget and all that kind of stuff. But I want to talk about Trooper Timothy Howell, recognized for his heroism in the Green River Tunnel thing. He's a guy.
He is the guy right now. And the cool thing about this is I'll talk about Howell first is this was a deadly pileup that happened. I mean, you had some crashes, a crash that happened inside the Green River Tunnel a year ago tomorrow. So Valentine's Day 2025. 26 vehicles pile up and kills 3 people. And so you have this tunnel filled with smoke and carcinogens. You know, who knows what kind of danger is in there at that time. Howell is there, but he's not in his patrol car. He is off duty in a family vehicle with his family. And so he makes sure he sees everything going on. He kind of, his family is safe first, gets his family to safety, and then goes to work. And he makes 4 trips into that smoky, potentially poisonous tunnel, you know, with almost no protection, you know, aside from what he's got on his back, and just going in there, and he brings people out 4 different times and saves some lives. And he's an absolute hero. And we are just thrilled that he was honored during the legislature on Monday by Governor Gordon. And he showed how Wyoming troopers step up. And I am sure that Tim is not alone in that. Our troopers are special guys. We have a lot of service first personalities in the troopers. They don't want to brag about what they do. They don't want to be bragged about. They just want to go out there and save lives.
You're always on the clock, always on the job. Trooper Howell didn't do anything any of the other troopers wouldn't have done. True hero stuff. Way to go. I remember when that happened. I forgot that it was WHP. I knew it was law enforcement, and I knew it was like an off-duty and recognizing like that's bad. That tunnel, whoever's in that tunnel and all that smoke coming out, that's not good. I got to help people get out of there. What a guy. Recognized at the budget session down there in Cheyenne. Let's talk more about the budget session. There's a couple of pieces of legislation that I'm sure Wyoming Highway Patrol's got eyes on, including potentially getting the pay of troopers up to speed. We got to pay these folks that are working for you out there. There's not enough of them, and the pay has got to be commensurate. The governor suggested pay raises for a lot of state employees. We've heard appropriations say no to some of them, but they do seem to agree that troopers and plow drivers, need to be compensated.
Well, I don't think I'm going to speak on that in too much detail, simply because it's still in legislation. So we definitely have our eyes on it. And I can tell you here at WHP, we fully support the governor's recommendations for the budget.
Yeah.
There are a couple other bills we are watching, though, as well.
HB 41, for instance, if things went sideways on Trooper Howell, heaven forbid, and we're talking about death benefits for families of troopers killed in the line of duty. Crucial.
Yes. And we basically, to put it in simple terms, this bill, if it's passed, would boost the death benefit for troopers and I believe for Highway Patrol, DCI officers, and wardens who die or killed in the line of duty. It would increase that family benefit from 60% to 90% of that individual salary.
That's
so making sure their families are taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Also, House Bill 32 gives local law enforcement the ability to enforce federal English language proficiency for commercial carriers. We've heard about this, where the effort is to make sure everybody out there with a CDL, everybody trucking, has got their paperwork in order, and you got to be able to understand instruction signs in English.
Yes, you do. And the thing about this bill is it's going to give law enforcement, local law enforcement, especially our sheriff's deputies, the ability to enforce that ELP federal regulation for CDL. Now, what it doesn't mean is our deputies aren't going to be able to do, inspections. It's simply going to be if you pull someone over and they're not meeting that ELP regulation, then they can be cited. You're not able to put them out of service like we can. You're not able to do an inspection like we can, but they can give them a citation. I believe it's $1,000.
Yeah.
Citation.
Yeah. Currently, if HB 32, previous to this bill, and if this bill does not pass, it's only Highway Patrol that has the power to cite somebody for ELP violation. What if deputy sheriff has someone pulled over? What could they do? Call a trooper or just let you go?
Yeah, at that point, that's all you really could do. Is potentially call a trooper if they're nearby for an inspection, or is that sort of thing. But with the bill, if it does pass, they'll have that ability to do a citation. Now, what'll happen there is if they come back to the state and fixed the issue, it's just like any other violation with a CDL, right? You're given a citation or a violation. You're not necessarily arrested right then and there. You're given a violation, and you're basically told, okay. In our case, you'll be put out of service, but you can't drive until you fix this. So if you go off and come back driving again and you have not fixed it, it's still the exact same thing, and that same deputy pulls you over for a different reason, and you'll end up at that point. I believe it's up to them, but they can either cite you again, or it's possible they can arrest you at that point. And then that's the same thing with WHP. If we put you out of service and you go off and drive anyway, and we catch you driving while you're out of service, that's an arrestable offense as well.
We're talking Aaron Brown, communications with Wyoming Highway Patrol. One more thing I wanted to tack on, just because we saw it in the news. We sort of talked about it when it comes to pulling over, but it's a message that is highlighted again in the news. We had a semi-tractor trailer pulled over on the shoulder and run into just a horrific fiery crash. For folks that are motoring, if you have problems with your vehicle and you got to leave it, park it, and go somewhere, I mean, get way, way over. I mean, the shoulder of the road. I've seen people parked, they even have somebody's put a sticker on because they've been there too long. Get way, and I've seen they're right on the edge of the lane. It's not safe. Get way the heck over as far as you can.
And if it's not an emergency, just don't pull over at all.
Yeah.
If you dropped your coffee cup, sorry, just keep going until you find a pullout or a rest stop somewhere you can pull in and actually, be safe. In this case, it was a semi truck that was on the side of the highway, not just even though he was on the shoulder, it was still an illegal parking.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why they pulled over. I believe he was out of the cab letting his dogs go to the bathroom at the time, but I don't know if that was the reason he pulled over or not. It could have been something else. But I guess while they stopped, they decided to take care of that. And while they're out of the cab, another semi, we believe driver inattention, possibly fatigue, drifted from the left lane into the right lane and then kept on drifting and finally drifted into the shoulder and impacted that trailer. And that impact in turn punctured the impacting semi's fuel tank and essentially detonated on impact. And it killed both occupants of that semi truck.
It's a reminder that the shoulder is, I know it's not a lane of travel, but it's a useful emergency space when, in this case, driver inattention. But there's been times on I-80 I've seen where you are wall to wall. There's a truck here, truck there. And that might be your only emergency option. And to have somebody over on the side of the road, like parked for not a good reason. Just a good reminder.
And like I said, if it's not an emergency, don't do it. But if it is an emergency, if it is, make sure you have the right kit. And that doesn't matter if you're a semi-truck driver or you're just driving your Camry down the highway. It doesn't matter. Have an emergency kit where you have some reflectors, maybe some road flares. Make sure you're putting things out to make sure people know, hey, my car's up here. We're having an emergency, flat tire, engine trouble, whatever it is, to give people that chance to slow down, move over, and make sure both parties, you and the oncoming traffic, are staying safe.
Yeah, these kits, they sell them everywhere. CarQuest, Napa, they're not expensive. Buy one, throw it in the trunk with your spare tire. It should be mandatory. Aaron, thank you for being on.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you for having me.
Have a great weekend. What a husband this guy is. Got the romantic Italian dinner planned. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it. Happy Valentine's.
All right. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. And let's see, where are we at? We have Wes that we wanted to get to, and we had some kind of okay, we're going to reschedule Wes. Excellent. We have more guests than we know what to do with. Wes Binder is the guy, Oregon State University PhD, doing the study on cats and dogs and how they don't live together. Mountain lions sharing the same ecosystem with wolves. And what does that mean? It's incredible. A fascinating findings. Some of it you could have probably ascertained when you think about it. Like, you could have come to that conclusion. How do mountain lions, how do they change their behavior, including change what they hunt? Now that there are the reintroduction of wolves in the late 90s, and now there are so many wolves, mountain lions, wolves, living together in living together in competition for mule deer, elk, and other things to eat. What does it mean? How does that all play out, the dynamics? They did a study, they being Oregon State University, lead author Wes Binder, and that just came out fresh off the press. And we'll talk about that. While I have a moment, let's quick do this day in history, and then we'll close out the hour with that. How about today, of course, February 13th is World Radio Day, whatever that means to you. Those of us in the radio biz appreciate the acknowledgement. World Radio Day today, since 2011. February 13th, 1831 is also the day that John Rawlings, Brigadier General in the United States, was born. John Rawlings, note the last name, Rawlings. Yes, that's where Rawlings, Wyoming gets its name from. He once camped right there. John Rawlings, born this day in 1831, once traveling through Wyoming, decided to camp right there off of I-80. Well, I-80 wasn't there yet. But he set up camp, and that camp became a city. Rawlins, Wyoming is named for him. He also practiced law from 1854 to 1860. He's got an illustrious career in the military and an important guy in Wyoming history for sure. Other things that happened this day, 1890, the Northwestern and Elkhorn Railroad announced it would be extending its line all the way to Sundance. 1901, Stinking Water River was renamed the Shoshone River. Stinking Water just didn't have the appeal. Campbell County was created this day in 1911. This day in 1936, the first Social Security checks were mailed out. Today, we have checks of a different color we're talking about, but Social Security checks first mailed out, first time ever, this day in 1936. And 1942, this day, U.S. and Canada agreed to construct the Elkhorn Highway. It is not a Wyoming event, but it is the cooperation of two different countries to make a road in the middle of nowhere. 1942, all Japanese nationals employed by the Union Pacific Railroad were dismissed. That's, of course, World War II. Legislature convened this day in 2012, and also Chief Justice Marilyn Kite delivered an address to the legislature. And Antonin... yeah, all right, that's all. I think that's all the stuff I have for this day. All these things happen on this day in history, February 13. That'll take us to the top of the hour. And time for news. We'll be back with our final hour on a Finally Friday edition of the Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. From the Cowboy State Daily News Center, I'm Mac Watson. News is brought to you by the Cody Night Rodeo, where real cowboy action comes alive. Get your tickets starting March 2nd at CodyStampedeRodeo.com. A parent of a kindergartner is angry after a teacher at Sage Elementary School in Rock Springs read a book about non-binary gender ideology to her son's class. Cowboy State Daily's Kate Meadows reports that the principal said the teacher stopped reading the book when she realized what it was about.
The parents say the book was read in its entirety. They want the school to teach kindergartners how to read and not push an agenda. Now, the school will say, we're not trying to push an agenda. The parents want to know, how did the book get in this kindergarten classroom in the first place?
My Shadow is Purple is a rhyming picture book by Scott Stewart about a child whose shadow is neither the traditional boy color of blue nor pink, but purple, representing a mix of both, but also some. In an effort to fix Wyoming's physician shortage, a bill to create a new pathway for foreign-trained doctors has advanced in the House. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that Representative Jacob Wasserberger says Wyoming is headed for a health crisis.
Wyoming is projected to lose around 335 physicians by 2030, which is just around the corner. And currently, 18 of Wyoming's 23 counties have a health professional shortage. And so this is lawmakers and working with medical administrators and professionals around the state trying to get ahead of the problem.
The bill passed its introduction vote 60-0 with 2 members excused and was assigned to the House Labor Committee. No members spoke in opposition. I'll be back with more news from the Cowboy State Daily News Center right after this. WYDOT wants to remind you, download the Wyoming 511 app for hands-free information on your mobile device. This message is from the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
My name's Brady Thornock. I manage my family's ranch here in Uena County. Ranching teaches you to think long-term, and it teaches you that Wyoming stays strong when there's real work here. That's why I'm building a data center on this ranch with a Wyoming company called Prometheus Hyperscale. This project will create thousands of Wyoming jobs, and it will use Wyoming's natural gas resources. We need to build Wyoming. I'm doing this for the future of Wyoming.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com. What if you didn't have to travel out of state for expert rheumatology care? Hoskinson Health Rheumatology offers access to 2 world-class rheumatologists right here in Gillette. From early joint pain to complex autoimmune disease, patients receive advanced diagnostics, in-house infusion therapy, and coordinated care. Expert rheumatology expertise close to home. Hoskinson Health Rheumatology. We are the future of healthcare now, and your doctor works here. Visit hoskinsonhealth.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. The two men killed Sunday when their semi-trailer exploded on impact with another semi on I-80 near Green River were identified on Wednesday. Cowboy State Daily's Greg Johnson reports that a father-son driving duo was from Citrus Heights, California.
The son was driving at the time. The truck veered over through an extra lane and hit this other truck that was illegally parked on the side of the highway. And as in a movie, their truck exploded on impact. Their family has put out a post on a GoFundMe page that kind of explains, just how it was really, of course, sudden. Nobody could see it coming. Now, the truck was parked illegally. You're only supposed to be able to park on the highway if you have an emergency.
According to the Wyoming Highway Patrol, 36-year-old Aleski Fadun was driving their Volvo semi-trailer along with his father, 76-year-old Vladimir Fadun, before 5:30 a.m. Sunday when the truck drifted from the far left lane through the right lane and collided with the parked semi. Cheyenne Lead's CEO, Betsy Hale, says that she's got a solution for the Heinz building, which has been empty for over 40 years, and the burnt-out area next to it known as, quote, the hole, unquote. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that Hale says she has the funding to turn the area into 69 units of workforce housing.
Changing that has involved layering a whole bunch of different things together, different financial packages, plus a pledge from Cheyenne Leads to put in $1 million to this project. There's a $6 million grant from the WCBA.
Carved out by a fire that destroyed Mary's Bake Shop in 2004, the gaping Heinz Hole, as it's often called, has become a symbolic void right in the middle of Cheyenne's downtown. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.
Some people judge a book by its cover, and if you're not what people are looking for, you're kind of like a reject.
At school, it feels like everyone's staring at me and I'm just kind of not really a person.
Sometimes I can't believe that you could be proud of me if I'm not proud of myself.
It just feels hard today. Nobody was listening to me.
Think of our best times together. Let's do more of that.
Try to understand me more, and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find ways to support your kids at soundidouttogether.org.
Cowboy State Daily Show in the final hour of a final Friday. And Mayor Patrick Collins joins us, Mayor of Cheyenne. We're going to talk about filling the hole, literally, really filling the hole. It's the hole left behind by the Heinz building. But before that, before the Heinz building of 1919, we're talking about the famous crown jewel of Cheyenne, the Inner Ocean Hotel, where all kinds of movers and shakers once gathered to do stuff in Wyoming and in Cheyenne. That's the history of this building and this block is rich. And to see it just lie dormant, lie vacant, lie underutilized is such a shame. An eyesore, really, but there's indication we may be fixing that. Mayor Collins, great to have you on. How's everything?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So let's start with, before we start with this encouraging news from Leeds, Betsy Hale's going to be on next week to talk further about it. Boy, Leeds has been busy with the PRCA and filling the Heinz hole. Have you seen, as you've been mayor and even mayors before you've probably seen a lot of propositions come through the door, like we can do this with this property and we're going to do that, and it just nobody can make it pencil.
No, you're right. I love the story about the Inner Ocean Hotel. It was owned by a guy named Marty Ford, and he was a slave, and he worked his way out of slavery, and he became one of the richest guys in Cheyenne. He built that Inner Ocean Hotel. Unfortunately, it burned down.
Yeah.
And, I think the guy who built it afterwards, he built it like a battleship. It's all steel and concrete, and that's part of the challenge of the Heinz building. We didn't have air conditioning. We didn't have internet back in the early 1900s, and so trying to retrofit a battleship of a building like that is a challenge. And so we've had so many different developers have come to us and said, "Hey, we're going to take this project on," and they do their due diligence, and they come out and they find they're $1, $2, $3 million short of being able to make that work. And so since 1985, really, the Heinz building has sat. Main floors had some activity, but the upper 5 floors have been empty.
Yeah, and that's the challenge is when you're talking about redevelopment, what is the cost of knocking something down to the ground and starting again? Sometimes cheaper than the retrofit. You can get down a rabbit hole with retrofitting, but in this case, this building is built in such a way that knocking it down, once you had your architect go look at things and he said, "Man, your civil engineers, like, you know what it's going to take to knock this down? Maybe it isn't going to work." So we've seen a lot of proposals, at least a dozen over the last 40 years, but maybe this one works. So is it not, Mayor, is there anything the government can do, the city can do to ease the burden or help grease the wheels for any kind of redevelopment there? Can you eliminate some red tape if that's the issue? Can we say, "Hey, man, we want this hole filled. We'll help you." How do we do it?
Yeah, I don't think the problem or the challenge is red tape. Obviously, with government, there's always red tape that goes along with a project. But in this particular case, I don't think that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's truly a numbers thing. It's a math problem, right? It's going to take this much to build it. And when you get it finished, this is what it can produce. And it just doesn't have enough revenue to be able to make it happen. So in 2001, when I became mayor, we started working on an urban renewal authority. And we passed that. And we created an urban renewal plan of project for this building and the whole next door. It was December 27th of 2004. I was on the city council, and we had an arson in the Mary's Bake Shop. And we took that and the Wyoming home out. And so we kind of hold there for now 20 years. And so those two pieces of property, the Heinz building and the whole, are kind of linked together. And they're owned by one person. And so we created an urban renewal planning project for that. And that allows that owner of the building is tax increment financing. And so we put that tool in place. And that's going to help bridge part of that gap. And then on the 2021 16 sales tax, we put in a large project completion fund, naming the Heinz and Full as a beneficiary of that. But we made that MOU in partnership with Leeds to help manage that. But that's what they do. They do development. I'm not sure the city's as good at it as Leeds is. And so I thought that maybe the best person to partner with us on that would be if we to Betsy, and she would work with the owners, Full Circle Realty, in order to do that. So we gave them $3.5 million of our taxpayer dollars approved by the voters to help make this project happen. It's a revolving loan fund. We'll get those dollars back at some point in the future, and then we'll be able to use it on the next type of a project. But every community in Wyoming has a white elephant, right? And so ours was the Heinz and Hitching Post. And so our URAs helped both of those projects now. And the large project completion fund, I think, been one of the last pieces of the partnership that we're able to make this happen. So yes, government has a place, and we used it.
You sure said it right, Mayor Collins. Every community has their whatever you want to call it. We had the exact same thing in Jackson. We had a hole, the exact same thing. There so many factors go into market forces and so many plans for the hole. It's finally now filled. But yes, there was a time when affordable housing efforts looked like it was going to finally, fill the hole. And that would be a win-win because every community certainly needs housing. And for you, that looks like a solution there that's going to work and a win-win. You you bring some redevelopment, some vibrancy into something that just wasn't happening for 40 plus years. And we're talking about some affordable housing on the outcome. It sounds good.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. There's a company called the Overland Group that we talked to 3 or 4 years ago. They've been looking at Wyoming for a while. They made an application last year, and they actually got high enough points to get it built last year. The problem was they were new to Wyoming, and they actually scored high enough to get 2 projects. And the WCDA said, well, I don't know, this is a new company. We're not going to give them 2 projects. So they gave them a project in Laramie instead of Cheyenne. Broke my heart. But everybody stuck with it. And we created the revolving loan fund to help sweeten the pot. And they came back this year, and it was the highest rated project. And so we're going to create 69 living units in the Heights building and the next door home. And, you know, the Wyoming Business Council talks a lot about Wyoming people, our youth leave the state. They go to other places. They're looking for urban places to live. And, you know, so we have a hotel complex, or not a hotel, a large apartment building being built downtown. Now we're going to have another place where you will hopefully that might be able to choose to live and maybe keep them in our state. So I'm very excited about this. It's one of the most important corners in our downtown. It's going to come alive. The main floor now is going to have a reason to come alive with retail, and we have a new Wagon Hound wine bar that just opened there. You know, so I think it's going to really activate that corner and help our downtown be more vibrant.
Look at the things happening under your short tenure there, Mayor Collins. I hope they're working on a statue. Have Harvey DeSelms be working on a bronze of that and put it up
man,
there.
We're almost to 90 bronzes now. You know, and I was listening. One of the legislators was on the floor of the legislature yesterday saying Cheyenne's putting bronzes in every corner. They have too much money, not understanding that every one of those bronzes was paid for by a person or a group here in Cheyenne, given to the city as a gift. And we have on almost every corner downtown now these beautiful bronzes that tell the story, the history of Cheyenne. It's amazing.
Now, you do have to have a public works guy go out and shine it every once in a while. But yes, there wasn't a huge outlay. And I think 91 should be, Mayor Collins, under your leadership for whatever, you know, whatever hand you had in it. The PRCA shows interest and wanting to come there. You already got the daddy of them all as far as the rodeo. And this fill in the hole, the Heinz Hole, sounds like also a win for Cheyenne. I like it.
Well, we heard about the PRCA and this project all in the same week. It was a good week to be mayor. I'm just telling you. I think it might have been the same day actually, but it was an amazing thing. It's just what a gift for Cheyenne. I keep telling everybody, when you looked at the Heinz in the hole, it was like a supermodel smiling and the 2 middle teeth were missing. You know, and now we're going to fill that up and we're going to get our smile back.
Yeah, I like it. Great job. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for everything you're doing for Cheyenne and Wyoming. And yeah.
Look forward to talking to you, Jim. Thank you.
Yes, that's Mayor Patrick Collins, Cheyenne, Wyoming mayor, where lots of good stuff happening, and we hear about it all this week, whether it's filling the Heinz Hole or bringing the PRCA headquarters to Cheyenne. Cheyenne is the state capital, and proud to be so, huh? Let's take a break.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You bet. We'll be right back with more here on the Cowboy State Daily Show after this.
Welcome to The Jake Show on Cowboy State Daily, Wyoming's daily dose of raw, unfiltered, and occasionally uncomfortable.
I do reality.
No spin, no fluff, just Jake. Local issues, national nonsense, and zero BS. It's truth, sarcasm, and grit, shaken, not stirred.
I just call it like I see it, and I see a lot of Let's just say I see a lot.
From the capital to the county fair, if it matters to Wyoming, Jake's got something to say, and he's not asking permission.
The West was built by people who weren't afraid to speak up. I'm just keeping the tradition alive.
The Jake Show, weekdays on CowboyStateDaily.com and wherever you get your dose of reality.
Not for the easily rattled, perfect for everyone else.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Nestled between Casper Mountain and the North Platte River, you'll find the heart of Wyoming, with a bustling downtown centered around our outdoor haven. Casper is for adventurers, freedom seekers, and rule breakers who find beauty off the beaten path. So if touchable history, a vibrant community, and uninterrupted outdoor recreation define your travel itinerary, allow us to welcome you to the one and only Casper, Wyoming. Plan your trip at visitcasper.com.
Oh, right. Look at you taking the stairs. Who are you?
We're your lungs. We are proud of you for quitting smoking, but you still may be at risk for lung cancer.
A routine cancer scan can detect it early when it's more curable. Good to know. Well, I gotta go somewhere.
So do we.
Listen to your lungs. Get a routine screening that could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I think I finally found
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Back to the convo. Finally Friday the 13th, and World Radio Day. Anything else of importance on this Friday? Maybe we're just barely started it. We do have a special Epstein Files guest coming up. I'm so excited to be able to talk to Nick Bryant. He is the guy most in demand when you're looking for somebody to try to make sense of or unravel or put in perspective these Epstein files. He was there from the very beginning, the journalist that really uncovered Epstein's black book and all the naughty names that were in it. Investigative journalist Nick Bryant has been on this story from day one. If you're late getting there, that's okay. Nick's been following it since before it was a story. And now it is the story. It is the scandal, the Epstein files. And the more you hear about it, the more you read about it, the 3 million pages that were released, the more you hear, the sicker it gets. Honestly, even our own U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis announced the other day that she's finally sat down and read the unredacted version of what was released, the pages of the Epstein file not released. And Senator Lummis was kind of like me, like, her and I both thought, I don't know, is this really a story? Let others dig into it if that's your thing. We're not that passionate about it. And then Senator Lummis said, my goodness, I read this and suddenly I see what it's all about. And I agree. We need to uncover this. We need to dig in. Suddenly this became very real to U.S. Senator Lummis, this Epstein file stuff. And maybe on her advice, I'll come around as well. Nick Bryant will be on. He's the author of The Franklin Scandal, the story of power brokers, child abuse, and betrayal. And we will follow the sordid tales of Epstein Island, and we will follow the money. There's financing that is as nasty as not that anything's worse than child sex abuse, but the money that changed hands, the parties, obviously. And then now there's another chapter that you may not have heard about or read about or been brought up to speed on. And that's this Epstein's lust extended beyond abuse. It was Epstein's intent to rewrite human DNA to create a super race or super species with his DNA. He thought so much of himself that he had a sinister plot to seed the human race with his DNA. It's just, the more I read about, the more that's uncovered, mostly by Nick Bryant, the more I am just, I want to throw up a little in my mouth. This Epstein stuff is horrible, horrible. Nick's going to be on in a moment. We'll talk all Epstein. Even though I do it kicking and screaming, basically, is because it wasn't my thing going in. It hasn't been my thing. But it's not going away. That's all many Americans want to know. They're like, it's all well and good that Congress is doing that and the Senate's doing this. What about the Epstein files? When are we going to see those released? When are we going to know what's in those? Yeah, it's just been this cloud hanging over Washington, D.C., hanging over all of us politically. What else? We had some listeners. Oh, many of our listeners have been chiming in on various stuff. We've been talking a lot this morning about the checks. The check distribution on the House floor and the bad look that is. We've had several representatives on today. Landon Brown was on early this morning, even though lawmakers were up at it late last night. The session went on till almost 11 o'clock last night, I hear. And primarily because of the 2-hour plus carve out in the middle of the session when they were talking budget, lawmakers, and then they had to set aside time to address and deal with the impropriety or the bad look or the bad optics of the check and imbalance scandal. The checks handed out Monday by Rebecca Bextel to certain lawmakers and happened right there on the House floor. That was certainly odd, to say the least. A 7-person task force is going to be assembled to get to the bottom of it. And that took over the discussion on the House floor late yesterday. And the reason lawmakers went into the night with that session, yet we had Representative Landon Brown on first thing. He was up late and up early this morning. Representative Steve Harshman was also in to talk about that topic primarily. Scott Clem joined us, and his opinion piece in the Cowboy State Daily. He's a regular columnist for the Cowboy State Daily, also a former lawmaker. So he's been there. He's been in Cheyenne during session, and he couldn't believe what he said. He's never seen anything like it. Nick Bryant just emailed me with some things that he wanted to talk about. That's all well and good, Nick, but we need you actually on the show. Where is he? I'm not sure. I will do this. Usually when I talk about it, somebody ends up getting their ponies in a row, getting their ducks in a row. But we say ponies out here in the West. All right, let's get to the Zoom room, and I believe we have the highly sought after Nick Bryant himself. Let's play him some music lead in to sound good. Nick, good to see you. Great to have you. I know you're in demand these days.
Slightly.
Yeah, Joe Rogan wants you on the show. Everybody wants you on the show because this Epstein file situation is not going away anytime soon, and you were there for ground zero. Nick Bryant's the guy who discovered the whole Epstein Black Book, and from the very beginning, you've been telling us this runs deep, man. You have no idea. The author of The Franklin Scandal, the story of power brokers, child abuse, betrayal. And I think that book has a new chapter regarding Epstein's lust for I don't even know how to explain it. This thing just gets more bizarre and more evil every day, Nick.
Well, I knew it was evil.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how evil it was. And whenever you're trafficking children, people that traffic children, especially traffic children, are vicious, psychopathic people.
Mm.
And when someone is vicious and psychopathic, they don't have a conscience. And if you don't have a conscience, there's really no bounds on what you will do. And we're seeing that right now with the Epstein files that are being released.
Yeah, you know what else we're seeing in there is your name. Speaking of naming names in the Epstein file, you're in there too, but in a good way or a better way. You're in there because they were worried about your reporting. This is, if you read through the Epstein files in the unredacted version, you'll see something like an email from one bad guy to other bad guys saying, hey, there's a reporter sniffing around again into our business, our shady business, and his name is Nick Bryant. Heads up. They were worried about you from the beginning.
They were indeed. And actually, they sent around a picture of me. I don't know what picture it was. I hope they had a reasonable picture of me. A decent picture got my good side. And, but yeah, there were 3 emails about me. One was to a bunch of people, as you said, to be aware. That was the word that they used, to be aware of Nick Bryant. And the next one was, the subject was alarm, J-E, I'm pretty sure that's Jeffrey Epstein, call Nick Bryant. And then the next one, I'm on a list of people to be called, but he never called me.
Never got the call. Well, they had reason to be concerned because you have been digging in from the get-go on the whole Epstein scandal. Let's talk about this latest, this notion that Epstein's lust extended far beyond the abuse. Not that that's not bad enough. Not that the money, I want to talk about the financing of all this is super bad. But now suddenly I'm starting to understand the twisted mind of a Jeffrey Epstein. When you believe your DNA is holier than thou, it tells me everything I need to know about your treatment of a 15-year-old girl and how important you think she is at your drug-fueled sex parties. It's scary. What is this DNA thing?
Epstein was into transhumanism, and I'm pretty sure he was cloning himself. Actually, it's not that difficult to clone an individual or any type of animal. You've got an ovum, you take the DNA out of the ovum, and then you insert in the ovum, and then you apply an electrical charge, and that starts the mitosis process of the cell splitting. Sometimes the electrical charge works, sometimes it doesn't, so you got to have more than one ovum. But I believe that Epstein definitely cloned himself. There are people, I live in New York City, and which is very different than the Cowboy State, but there are people cloning their French pit bulls for $65,000 in New York. And I've always thought that they were ugly little creatures, French bulldogs. I have nothing against the French. I've got nothing against bulldogs, but I think that an amalgam of the two was a bad idea. Anyway, you can clone a human being for about $1.5 million.
And this is more than just rumor, speculation. Did you uncover actual evidence that Epstein had been in touch with people in genetics, eugenics, cloning, scientists like you? You got somewhat of a smoking gun on this.
Yeah, the emails. Epstein is corresponding with very, very eminent biologists. And they're talking about baby editing and cloning and other things like that. And actually, they're pretty ominous. They're talking about taking a baby, a male baby, and giving it hormone blockers, and taking female babies and pumping them full of testosterone to create not quite hermaphrodites, but somebody. I guess people have a fetish for that type of thing. Males that are very effeminate and females that are very masculine. And the email does talk about that they'll be able to fulfill people's fetishes for that.
Jeffrey Epstein, who obviously at the center of this those whole sex abuse stuff, that's bad enough, but you start to understand where this twistedness came from when you're talking about a guy who apparently has a fixation on leaving his own legacy and lineage. He wants to be what every human is, and he had been working on it. Is there anything else that came of these sort of recently released millions of pages of Epstein files? Anything in there that you have come across that you didn't know, or many aha moments like I knew it?
Well, I've been looking for major darkness with Epstein. I've spoken at a number of anti-trafficking conferences. I've written a lot about anti-trafficking, and I've spoken at anti-trafficking, and I've gotten to know therapists that work with victims, trauma victims that have dissociative identity disorder. And I've gotten to know a couple of therapists pretty well, and they told me that they had clients that were trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein when they were under 10 years old. And that's never come out. The media and government seemed to have declared that 14 was the youngest. But actually, so I knew about the younger victims. Some of the other stuff I was not aware of. But I also knew that some of the pedophiles that Jeffrey Epstein was pandering girls to were extremely sadistic. So I was aware of that, and I've been talking about it on podcasts, and actually I've been attacked by saying that there were girls younger than 10 years old that were trafficked by Epstein. But actually, so these emails are proving that I was telling the truth.
Nick Bryant's the author of The Franklin Scandal, the story of power brokers, child abuse, betrayal. It's all regarding Epstein. When you talk about these poor, unfortunate young women, where do they come from? And unfortunately, there's no shortage of supply in the world we live in. And what became of some of them? I mean, how can you invite an underage minor to one of these Epstein parties and then say, all right, go, here's your car ride home, goodbye? I'm afraid something, what happened to them? Where do you get them, and where do they go after?
Super predators like Jeffrey Epstein never have a shortage of children.
Yeah.
And I know that they were, he and Jean-Luc Brunel, his partner, and they were getting kids from Eastern Europe, and they weren't renting kids from Eastern Europe. They were buying children from Eastern Europe, and that seems very counterintuitive to a lot of people. But yes, they were outright buying children. Virginia Giuffre, the Epstein victim that committed suicide, filed an affidavit that accused a number of people of being perpetrators. Ghislaine Maxwell, Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, and also Jean-Luc Brunel. And she said that she had been to orgies where most of the girls didn't speak English, but they were as young as 12. And the Australian newspaper, it's a daily, I think it's out of Sydney, it's called The Age. They spent a lot of time in the Virgin Islands digging into Epstein, and they said that the youngest victims were 11 or 12. So, and then the information that I had that some of them were younger than 10 years old. I think that there's no shortage of ways to get children, especially if you've got infinite resources or near infinite resources like Jeffrey Epstein did. The Franklin Scandal, Epstein is kind of a carbon copy of a book that I wrote called The Franklin Scandal, which you've mentioned a couple of times. And they were getting kids from an orphanage, Boys Town, the eminent orphanage in Omaha, Nebraska. They were plundering Boys Town pretty heavily for kids. And then there are kids from severely dysfunctional families that just fall through the cracks, that these particular people know how to, they've just got a machine that sucks in children that they can abuse. Because Epstein did have them. It was a machine. And the pimps that ran the Franklin's network, that was a machine too.
The general public should have an enormous distaste for sex trafficking like we're seeing with Epstein, but hopefully we all do. Hopefully that is awful enough. But is there this new revelation that Epstein's ambitions were beyond sex trafficking, where some, this notion to clone a whole bunch of him? Should this further disgust the American public and or world people? I don't know. What can we do now? If we learn more about how much more evil Epstein was, does it mean anything?
When you have a pathology, there's 3 phases of getting rid of it. There's awareness, there's acceptance, there's action. I think most Americans had an awareness of Jeffrey. But these emails are actually, I think, making more people accept the evil of Jeffrey Epstein. And when you talk about, I've got a bunch of emails, and they've got different categories. And the first ones are about me, the Epstein et al. Putting out an all points bulletin on Nick Bryant. But then you get into emails where Epstein, there's talk about black market babies. A woman was offered in New Mexico to be I guess, a quote unquote breeder. And then you've got Epstein describing an aquarium of girls, and some are like shrimp. You throw away the head and keep the body. I mean, that's fairly ominous.
Yeah.
And one of the sickest ones that I've seen, I mean, and this is really, really sick. UCLA neuroscientist Mark Tramo, who has an MD and a PhD, wrote Epstein an email on how he can enhance babies' abilities to suck, which I came across that. And though I'm a veteran of this sewer, I've been swimming in it for 23 years. I was pretty stunned by that.
Shocking. Every discovery, every email is just worse than the last. All you can do now, bring him to the light of day. Nick Bryant is helping do that. And learn more. Check him out. Do you have a bunch of times? You have a website?
Yes. You can go to nickbryantnyc.com. But I'm a director of Epstein Justice. It's a 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah.
And that's where I would suggest that your audience go to, epsteinjustice.com. Because if we're going to get truth and we're going to get what we need, prosecutions, I believe that we're going to need an independent congressional commission. And independent congressional commission does not require a presidential signature. It does require a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate. But independent congressional commissions often employ non-government personnel to investigate whatever that independent congressional commission is investigating. And that's ultimately what we're going to need. We cannot let Epstein get stuck into a subcommittee where it'll just die. But an independent congressional commission is what's needed. And you can go to our website and at epsteinjustice.com, and we can walk you through various ways. We have webinars once a month, and there's various other mechanisms that you can do to actually start getting justice for the Epstein victims.
Yeah, well, go to the website. It all starts there as we move from awareness to acceptance, now to action. Action is next. And yeah, get on the website. Nick Bryant's got it all laid out for you. Nick Bryant NYC or Epstein Justice. Nick, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on. Cowboy State Daily Show. We got to get Representative Harriet Hageman on next after this quick break.
Oh, look. Another national expert explaining Wyoming. Bless their hearts. Look, don't rely on national experts. We do it all ourselves at Cowboy State Daily Radio. Real news for real Wyomingites who actually live here. We tell it like it is, with headlines that hit harder than a spring blizzard and commentary that cuts through all the bull. Cowboy State Daily Radio. It's Wyoming news. No filter, no fluff, no kidding.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Wyoming is a place of unlimited potential. A place that inspires us to dream. Since 2014, Wyo Lotto has given back over $180 million to our great state through transfers, winnings, commissions, and more. Dollars that have gone directly into your cities, towns, and counties. Dollars that have changed lives and set dreams in motion. Thank you, Wyoming, for a legendary 10 years. We can't wait to dream up what's next.
Might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. You may not even know you have it, but you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand. With early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
On a final Friday the 13th. Don't be scared. It's just the show. We had Representative Hageman in the Zoom room, and then she fell out. Okay, she's back. Got it. My Zoom room management today has been very suspect. There is Representative Hageman. How's everything today? How are you doing?
I'm wonderful, Jake. How are you?
I'm great. Let's start with the idea that, wouldn't it be great if the PRCA headquarters, the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, the museum, the whole shebang could come to Wyoming?
I think that would be awfully exciting. It's interesting that this discussion is happening. I just went to visit the PRCA in Colorado Springs a couple of months ago. So I'm quite familiar with what's there. They had a wonderful exhibit on Chris Ledoux and a lot of the old cowboys and cowgirls that I've known kind of my whole life, as well as quite a few of the animal athletes. It was an interesting exhibit. I think we can do some great work with it in Wyoming, so I'm excited by the prospect.
Did it feel a little cramped there? Like they need more space. They need 35 acres, and they need a Wyoming address.
You know, it's kind of it's tucked away right under the interstate, just west of the interstate as you're driving into the city there on the north end. And yes, I think that we could put to build a fabulous building and just the entire experience associated with Cheyenne Frontier Days. And I do think that Wyoming really is the cowboy state. To have that in Wyoming, I think it'd be a great tourist attraction. But I also think that it's so important for our heritage and our culture. I know that there are a lot of people in Wyoming who are supporting this. I know there's discussion going on in the legislature right now. I think there's a lot of positive attributes about this. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to move forward with this sooner rather than later.
That'd be great. If you can pull any strings in the D.C. area, please do. Congresswoman Hageman also introducing the SAFE Act. I want to talk about safety and accountability in freight enforcement. You have been on this from the beginning, this idea to make our highways safer, making our trucking industry safer.
I'll tell you what, when you travel across Wyoming, you understand why we have the laws in place that we do. It is so critically important. There are 13,000 vehicles that cross I-80 every day, and half of those are trucks. So this is a very important issue for our state. We have the highest number of fatal truck accidents of any state in the nation. So this is something that I've jumped in the middle of, especially over the last year and a half. And one of the issues, you probably heard about that horrific accident in Indiana last week.
Yeah.
That was what we refer to as a chameleon trucking company. And the reason you're seeing an increase in truck accidents, 18-wheeler accidents on these secondary roads, is these are fly-by-night outfits that are very, very, very dangerous. That gentleman was an illegal alien. He couldn't pass the English language proficiency test. He was driving erratically, and he killed 4 people in just that one accident. But they're trying to avoid the checkpoints. They're trying to avoid notice on the interstates, and so they're using these secondary roads. And this is the consequence of that. So what the SAFE Act does is basically give the Department of Transportation more enforcement authority. It's actually to investigate, find out, and develop the information about the prevalence of the chameleon trucking companies, and also developing a more robust response to that. So I've been working with the Wyoming Trucking Association, the American Trucking Association. I just think that this is a really critical issue for trucking and highway safety.
Absolutely. The incident you're talking about, February 3rd in Indiana, just highlights this chameleon carriers, or like this shell company stuff. So
they are.
Your act would just give more teeth to investigation to uncover who's at fault, who's wrong here,
who's doing it, and then also being able to prosecute them for this, because these companies, they might have 150 different numbers, DOT numbers in different trucks. And they're just, when one gets into an accident or has a citation or is pulled over or put out of service, they just go and grab another DOT number and slap it on the side of the truck and keep driving. These are really bad actors, and they are as substantially impacting the viability of our trucking industry. So I'm being pretty aggressive about that. We're filing that this week.
Yeah. Is it today? When is that getting filed?
I think it's going to drop today. It either dropped late last night or today.
Okay. Excellent. Well, just when you've seen every shenanigan that could happen on the House floor, the Wyoming's House floor says, hold our beer. Have you heard about the check scandal on the House and, the optics, wrong place, wrong time? Do you hand out checks on the House floor? Do you do anything on the House floor that, I don't know?
Well, I think that people are raising some real concerns about it. I'd like to tell you that I've read everything about it, but I haven't because I've been traveling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that's probably, they're going to be looking into that. My understanding is that they're going to be investigating it. So, I'll watch and see what everybody else says as well, or what they learn about it.
So what's going on in D.C.? You're back in session? You're there?
No, we are out of session as of last night, and then the Democrats have closed down not the entire government, but at least the Department of Homeland Security, or portions of that, with the shutdown by refusing to fund that one agency. So everything should be fine from the standpoint of the Department of Homeland Security. For ICE enforcement, that's the irony of this. The Democrats have shut down the funding that goes to FEMA and TSA and those kinds of sub-agencies, which makes no sense at all. That was some of the disruptions that we saw during the last shutdown that made people so frustrated. So I don't know why they've done this. The fact is that we have to enforce our immigration laws, both at the border as well as internally, intra-country, and that's what ICE does. So this is just another temper tantrum, and they're holding the American public hostage, primarily in the area of addressing anything that FEMA would need to deal with, as well as TSA.
I hope we get that worked out. There is some positives out of D.C. President Trump Administrator Zeldin delivered the single largest deregulatory action in U.S. history. We're talking about getting EPA back to business, back to the original intent, take their orders from Congress, not any particular president in there. I saw you in a photo with the president. This is good news for the American people, EPA reform.
It is excellent news, Jake, and it's interesting because when I was running for this seat the first time, one of my highest priorities was getting rid of the endangerment finding. The endangerment finding is bad from a science standpoint and also from a legal standpoint. The EPA did not have the legal authority to issue that kind of a sweeping regulation in 2009 that literally had an impact of over $1 trillion on the U.S. economy and even broader than that worldwide. There is no administrative agency that would ever have that kind of legal authority. That is for Congress to make those kinds of policy decisions. So I have been working to get rid of the endangerment findings since I was first elected over 3 years ago. But one of the very first things that I talked to Lee Zeldin about when I learned that he was going to be the nominee for that position, I talked to him about the endangerment finding. So I have been in close contact with the EPA, with the White House, talking about how the endangerment finding is both factually, scientifically, as well as legally, not just suspect, but absolutely cannot stand. And I think that that's why you're seeing the gnashing of the teeth and the hysteria out there, is because most people know that I'm correct in that regard. The Clean Air Act simply does not give the EPA the authority to dictate this kind of policy nationwide.
Not surprised to learn that the bug in the ear of Administrator Zeldin was Harriet Hageman and saying, this endangerment finding, you got to get rid of it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Appreciate it. Have a great Valentine's weekend.
Good to see you.
See you again soon. Yes. That is Representative Harriet Hageman doing the work of the American people and Wyomingites, and that's going to take us pretty near to the close of this show, as we've somehow used up all 4 hours almost. In fact, let's take 3 minutes to enjoy the latest and greatest in what is going on in the rodeo world. It's the Western Ag Network and the Rodeo Roadshow. Will, what are you up to?
Hi, and welcome to the Rodeo Roadshow. I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network. Good to have you along today on the show. Brand new world champion bareback rider Rocker Steiner joins us. We talked about the moment he got off the back of that bucking horse in round 10 of the national finals, and he knew that he had won a world title. I love the emotion. I love his answer. Rocker Steiner, world champion, on the Roadshow coming up.
Every year, humic loss makes it harder for crops to absorb applied nutrients. Resurge from Helena is a low-dust granule that compounds to improve nutrient uptake and plant growth. The Resurge granule's superior hardness and uniformity withstands pneumatic applications, allowing for even distribution in your fertilizer and across the acre. Energize your soil and elevate your crops. Contact your Helena representative to learn more. Always follow label instructions and check registration status before use.
When calves get off to a rough start, every hour counts. SX Calf from Western Ranch Supply is an oral electrolyte and nutritional supplement designed to support hydration and energy when calves need it most. Easy to mix and administer, SX Calf helps keep calves on track during stressful times. Don't let setbacks turn into losses this calving season. Pick up SX Calf today at Western Ranch Supply. Trusted products, real ranch solutions.
Tell me, when you were standing in the middle of that arena after you got off your horse in round 10 and you knew you won the title, tell me how it hit you.
Man, I knew as soon as I double grabbed that, I won it. And I got off and I kind of went to screaming and doing my normal deal. Then I got to walking back and really started to realize exactly what was happening. And whenever like the picture with me with my arms out and I'm kind of starting to, tear up, I'm looking at my grandparents and they're hugging, they switch seats, every day. And out of nowhere, I found them in the crowd and they were hugging, and that dug deep. So we got kind of emotional in the arena, and it wasn't like a normal celebration where I'm, jumping up and hollering. It was a pretty emotional deal. And I really didn't hold anything back. I was like, you know what? If we're gonna start crying, let's just get it over with.
Let's just cry. Heck, I was crying with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I asked Tim O'Connell after. I was like, is the second one better than the first one? Because I can't imagine it being better than this. So, yeah, it was a pretty special moment.
What a talented young man from Weatherford, Texas. How many world titles is he going to win? 3 NFRs, a gold buckle now for Rocker Steiner, the new bareback riding world champion on the Rodeo Roadshow. I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network.
Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Will. Thank you, Western Ag Network, for all that is rodeo. And a big thank you to all our guests on today. We had, what a fun Friday. Representative Landon Brown was on. Representative Steve Harshman, both current House members, to talk about the great check scandal, whatever you want to call it. Scott Clem, former legislator, wrote a new column with the Cowboy State Daily about it as well. We talked to Scott. We also had on Governor Mark Gordon, Aaron Brown, Wyoming Highway Patrol, Cyrus Western was here of the EPA, Mayor Patrick Collins, Nick Bryant regarding the Epstein files, and U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman. We did it all today on World Radio Day. Tune in tomorrow and catch Jeff Rickett do this show. I'll see you Monday on the Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Good morning. This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way